social
I
butterfly.
hate this thing. 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
He is a social butterfly.
I thought you meant you were.
No. So 3:30 in the morning, you're just not, you're just you're on autopilot, you know, you're just trying to get through the day.
Okay, welcome everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so we're gonna get this started. I know we have a couple members missing, but we do have a quorum, so I think we're good to move forward. So I'm gonna do a call to order, so we can start. Jules, if you wanna speak loudly for the mic.
Julie Keane, Budget Committee.
John Childs, Budget Committee.
Mark Solomento, Budget Committee.
Timothy Silvernail, Budget Committee.
Elaine Bovier, Budget Committee.
Diane Adinolfo, Board of Selectmen Representative to the Budget Committee.
Keith Claus, Select Board, School Board Rep to the Budget Committee.
Jeff Nagus, Budget Committee.
Lisa Toll, Budget Committee. Chris Fowler, Budget Committee.
Okay, thank you. And we have two guests here, so,
Laura Lambert.
okay.
Eric Lambert, Fire Chief.
Okay, thank you. So if you could all just join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're a republic.
So Laura, do you have any comments that you'd like to, you're just listening in? Okay.
That burns me.
Okay. All right, I would just like to take a moment, though, of silence to remember those lost at 9/11. So if we could do that, that would be great. Thank you very much for that. It's hard to believe it's been 24 years. It's just insane that it's been 24 years. I think we can all remember where we were that day, right? All right, so we're going to move right into the town expense reports. I forwarded everything that I was given, so I'm hoping that you have had a chance to review them. I do have a lot of questions. Diane, I think some of this you can probably help with.
I'll try.
So executive computer equipment software overspent, we should be at 75% spent where we are this time of year. Was that the upgrades to the town
To the
hall?
purchasing, to that whole accounting system.
Okay,
Yeah, as to why it went over, I don't know.
okay. But it is the hardware, software to town hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Vicky.
Hey.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Vicky Cassidy.
Thank you. Okay. All right, and then election and registration, the expenditure of 2,900, is that the new voting machine? Do you know? Does anyone know?
Which line are you in, Malene?
I'm down below, page 1, election and registration. Overspent 2,932.
So, I don't know why that's, so the machine, that we purchased, half of it, we only were invoiced for half the cost, and the state was supposed to be invoiced for the other half of the cost.
Okay.
So I'm not,
So I'm wondering if this is a pending grant that will be coming in, or revenues from the state?
see, cause, well, what we were told was the state, unless, they billed us more than they should have, but the state was supposed to get billed for 50% and us for 50%.
Okay.
So I can take a note and,
Well, I'm gonna take a note, and then I can,
Check with
rather
John.
than, I'll meet
Yeah.
with John and I'll be able to report back to you
Yeah.
guys.
unless it's pending, I don't know.
Okay. And then, advertising, election and registration, almost $1,000. We only budgeted 50, so I don't know what that is either. Feel free to, if you have any questions as we move forward. I'm gonna be a little bit more particular this year. I'm gonna try to kind of go through so that we're all on the same page going into the election season, the budget season.
But how are we gonna know this if there's nobody here to answer your questions.
I made notes on here, so I'm gonna be meeting with John, it's the only way to do it. I wanna get you accurate information, so I don't wanna play the guessing game, so what I can do, once I have all of this, is I'll just shoot out an email so that you'll have those answers.
Did we have to buy a new voting machine?
Yes,
It was mandatory?
yep. Ours was no longer supported.
Okay, and, finance treasurer's salary, again, it's, you know, for being 75% into the year, we've already overspent that line. So, that's another,
Right, well, we had the,
Rita left,
yes, Rita left, but she's been replaced by another person.
Okay.
And I think the 24 audit had to be pushed out because of Rita's departure. This other person's gotta come up to speed, so,
okay.
that's that expenditure.
So we're currently on 24 right now?
Pardon me?
Are we currently on 24 right now?
Well,
What
Yeah,
year?
preparing for the 24,
Okay.
but the 23 has not yet been completed because in talking to John this week,
okay,
there were 2 issues that they needed to make adjustments
Okay.
to the audit.
okay,
So he's expecting that at any point. So for all intents and purposes, 23 is done, just pending those adjustments.
Okay.
And then they'll move right into 24.
yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
think it actually was scheduled, they came in for one day, but then they had some questions and, like
Yeah.
I said, upon Rita's
yeah.
kind of abrupt departure,
It was the same
Um,
day.
That's what I'm told. She
Yeah.
left the same day,
yeah, so,
which is kind of interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going on to, you know, personnel administration down below on page 2. Overspent a little bit on the life insurance. Again, that's a factor of payroll, so I'll get clarification on that. Okay, I'm on to page 3. Planning and zoning dues and publications. That's overspent quite a bit.
Yeah, it was like,
$6,100. So I don't know, did we have to advertise for butters or things of that nature, or seems like a lot of money?
Advertising.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. We budgeted
But
150.
subscriptions and dues would be advertising, right?
No, yeah, you're right, dues and publications.
Yeah, that wouldn't be advertising, that would be, nothing that I've gone to. I don't know if it's, any training.
I know there's been training, I haven't been to any training, I don't know, again, it's a John question in the county,
Yeah, cause I mean, we budgeted 150 and
yeah,
we spent 62.93.
unless.
That's a big-
Hasn't been, unless something got charged incorrectly.
And that
For
could
that
very well
amount of
be.
money, for that amount of money,
Yeah.
that kinda looks like that to me.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe that should have gone into the advertising because that was a $1,300 budget and nothing was expensed.
Yeah,
So it would make sense that
but
maybe it was.
that's a lot, that's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
But contracted services is a big number that hasn't been used too.
The
We always
contract,
look at the
Yeah.
bathrooms, but
yeah.
And I believe the finance director saying when you talked about that.
Hi, Roger.
And
Could you
the
please state your
total
name
is
for the
still
record?
below-
Roger Staley.
The
Thank
total
you.
allowed is still below, so
that doesn't
there's a
matter.
bunch of stuff here that hasn't been charged.
I know that John had mentioned before. the first one,
Right, right, I can see it's probably not mixed up in there.
offset
Right.
what's going on.
Yeah.
So again, my plan is to get answers to all of these, but you're gonna have to give me a few days. Well, John is out obviously
It's
till
not back till Tuesday.
Tuesday, by the time I get my answers and draft out the email to you. So it will be upwards of a week, but I will get you the answers. The other thing was general government buildings, repairs and maintenance. So not a whole lot of money, but again, to be overspent at 3/4 of a year is, do you have your information? Did you bring it? You wanna share?
Yeah, a digital copy.
Okay. So again, I don't know what that is. And then I'm on page 4. And there were, and I don't know, maybe I'll go and see Beth, there's a lot with the police department. So I know that they brought on new cops,
Yep,
so maybe a lot of this has to do with that, I don't know. You know, there's recruitment, which is off quite a bit,
How many new cops we,
computers and software.
I don't know. I know we hired 2 of them coming out of the academy.
Yeah,
But I know they're replacing one, I don't know if one is added to staff or if
no,
it's
they're
a replacement.
replacing,
They're
well, because,
replacing,
because Beth went into the chief's position.
right,
Her position is.
and then they
is
replace
open.
someone else.
That was my
There's
question.
nothing new added.
Nothing new, okay.
How many full-time policemen do we have on salary?
I'll get that information, I'm writing a note, I don't know.
You know, if you go to the website, we can look.
Yeah, I know. It is,
Right? I mean, except maybe
As long
there's,
as they're all listed there.
they're a new couple, right?
Yeah.
My other question about the police is who determines overtime?
I would
Yeah.
think that would be Beth, the chief.
Yeah,
So, some of that overtime gets offset by revenue that comes in. And that's kind of the hard part about reading these budgets sometimes. So when they go on detail, it's probably overtime, and that goes in the overtime, but then
It's
the
paid.
revenue's coming in
yeah, they get
from-
paid, they
Yeah.
get paid
from-
by
it
somebody.
gets paid out that way through Eversource or the road construction company or whoever does that kind of thing, so, or,
And those are separate accounts.
and those are separate accounts, so.
But it
it's-
shows up on here as overtime?
It shows up on there as overtime, if they're in overtime, but it also could be when they were short-staffed and Chief Tower moved up, that they had to have some people running overtime, too, as well. So I'm sure it's a combination of both. I'm sure it's a combination of overtime and detail.
Yeah, and detail is always, you're gonna see that revenue coming in on the revenue section.
Yeah,
So listed on the website is 12.
12 full-time?
It doesn't just, I'm
Yeah, they're all
assuming 12
full-time.
full-time. They're all full-time.
Does that include the clerical staff, though?
no, that's
Um,
separate, that's support staff, I
No,
would
yes,
think.
and Jessica's, she's an admin, so there's one admin.
So
One's the
12 plus
prosecutor.
1?
So working like on the street, so to speak, it would be the chief. 9, because one's the school resource officer, one's an admin, and one's the prosecutor.
Okay, okay.
Oh,
The government has to bring it back for the SRO grant they were talking about.
yeah, Beth mentioned that, we haven't been, paid from the government for the grant.
For the
For the
SRO?
SRO, yeah, so
Okay,
we're putting up that money, so something's gonna be over because of that.
okay. Cause that's shared,
And
is that
Beth, she
50?
was still, yeah, she was still working on getting that paperwork in,
Okay,
cause it's pretty complicated paperwork, but she was, pretty actively working on that.
so the SRO is a school resource officer, and his salary is, I think, 50-50
Why
split.
would
town
that be
grant.
overtime though?
It's not
No,
overtime.
it's not, but they've got it separate, it's
Yeah,
$16,000.
16,000, nothing's been expensed. Okay, on to, any questions so far, please stop me. We're good? Okay, Eric, I'm glad you're here, cause we're off the fire department. Okay, fire inspector. Budgeted 7470 and we've spent 9328.
Yes, and if you look at, the top number, those numbers are the default numbers that we went to, and like we said last year, some of those funds were taken out of the emergency services revolving fund for salaries, which is the same for this year. If you look at the ambulance line, you see it's still at a 0 balance, right, and what you had to explain at the last meeting is, you're gonna see that stay at a 0 balance, but you're gonna see other lines that are gonna go over, because the plan was, with the budget passed, those 2 lines would have been merged together, so the salaries line would be, look different.
So the only reason we have the ambulance line separate is because we're in default.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hopefully, if the budget passes this year, you're gonna see that all come together.
They'll merge,
It'll be a little
okay.
clear, so some of the things you see over are automatically gonna be absorbed into that line, if you wanna call it. It's not gonna show that way, but it's gonna look negative here, but 0 here, so they'll kind of meld together.
So the fire inspector, was that monies that were taken out of the revolving fund?
Last year, so, and like I said, as I have information on the revolving fund here too, of what's been charged there, how much we spent the year
Okay.
on the revolving fund to offset those things. I mean, one of those is wages and salaries, we spent almost $75,000 this year out of the revolving fund, which is something that doesn't hit the budget, it doesn't affect the taxpayers. So, in addition to the line that's zero there, those things, you're gonna see that all kind of melt together. So yes, that was, the goal was the fire inspector was supposed to be funded this year in the budget, at what it was, I think it was $19,850, but then we went to default. So you're gonna see those numbers not be what they should be, because it's coming out of two different places.
Okay, so I guess my question, and, cause this is gonna be new, because we haven't had the revolving fund in the past.
Yep.
So when monies come out of the revolving fund, will we see it on a revenue report?
You will see it, yes, we have, and this is one that John put out for the selectmen the other night and gave it to everybody. Emergency services revolving. We do have one with a balance in it, and like I said, if you give me 5 minutes, I can probably print it. The balance of the revolving fund as of last Monday was $569,000 in building revenue. That was based on the revenue we've taken this year. The expenditures this year to date is $201,000 spent out of it to offset the budget. And
So that's the revenue report, that's part of capital reserve.
yeah, and so
So it won't be
it'll
on
be
this
escrow, I'm
report?
not sure, it won't show on
Okay.
that. So it's actually an escrow account, so it might not show on the capital reserve, because it's basically, as the new finance director said, it's really not an escrow account, it's a capital reserve, but it's considered a revolving fund, so if money goes in, money comes out. I can tell you to date that, as of January first was when we started to collect the billing, the medical billing report. We are doing well with that report, with that fund. I think we had forecasted about $180,000 in billing revenue, to last month. We were at about 240, so we're ahead of schedule. And we start working towards the budget season. What that does for us is, it's doing exactly what we had planned to do, is it's putting that money in that account to use for bigger purchases in the future, but also to offset the budget in the future. And the justification and the truth is we've already used it this year to offset almost $200,000 of expenses to the fire department. So that has saved you as the taxpayer, those dollars that would be charged to us, whether it be from EMS.
Those
or-
dollars came from the taxpayer though, right?
No, they didn't.
Where'd they come from?
Insurance companies.
Insurance company.
So those revenues
It's the
that come
collected
in-
revenues from ambulance runs.
Oh, the ambulance, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those, and that's why I say is that RSA is defined that revolving fund to be that way. What have we taken from those insurance companies, any type of billing revenue for the fire department, it goes in there to help lower the actual budget of the fire department, which is, it has done, it's been proven to be working very well.
Where are the expenses for the ambulance, for the services, like where are the expenses that are paying for the EMTs and everything, are they in the fire department budget?
No, so that will be in the budget, yes, the salaries are there.
So then in a way, the ambulance service should be paying for those, is there any way to like separate those to know
Yeah, they don't
how
have
much
like a
we're
line
paying
item.
out for the ambulance service and how much we're collecting on a separate line, or we just have to?
No, you can, and like I said,
Cause the ambulance service is supposed to be making money so that it kinda like supports itself.
it does.
But basically, we're putting, well, it does, but it's showing, it's not showing, like the EMTs are kinda like rolled into the fire department budget.
Yes, is that's the
So
way.
we're
it
not really seeing what's
But they
actually
are EMTs,
surplus.
they are firefighters and EMTs together, so it's gonna come out of that salary line because they do both jobs.
Right,
So when it comes to supplies, we can, and that's what the revolving fund, if you want a copy of this one, is what wages, so the DRA has said that you can charge some wages out of that fund. We will never make money on the ambulance, to be clear. There's money that we make that will offset the budget for the fire department and the ambulance together, because they are one. They're not, it's not an ambulance budget and a fire department budget. It is one budget, which is the fire department and EMS together, because they're dual certified.
right, but I thought at some point it was supposed to be the ambulance service was supposed to be like self-supportive because
No.
we're collecting that money from the
No.
insurance company to pay for,
No,
to pay
and-
for those services.
And that was a myth that was put out there that will never be accurate. We will make money to offset the services, and that's what originally was put out there, is the fact that in Tri-Town did the same thing, billing offset their expenses. So what it does for us right now in the revolving fund is we take in that revenue, and it's charged directly to that fund to offset the taxes to help support the ambulance service, not pay for it, make it self-servicing, is salaries, training, equipment, supplies, that's what helps offset it.
Right, so is there any way though, in what reports does it show where we're making, what our expenses are for the ambulance service?
Absolutely.
There's not a report that, because it's kinda like, to me, it just sounds like it's getting like meshed together.
No, so you have, that is your department town budget. And the revolving fund takes in revenues, and like I said, if you give me 10 minutes, I can go up there and print what we have for balancing and transactions of what we take in for billing revenue. We do have a report that says the transactions of what we take in for revenue from the ambulance. So that can be there. So the other part is, this is the one for the revolving fund, right here, is that's the revolving fund. Those are the things that the DRA and the RSA state that we can charge to that fund to offset. If you look at it, you have EMS wages and salaries. Realistically, it's a firefighter salaries, which is an EMT at the same time. So paramedics, AEMTs, EMTs. Their training, we have to do required training every single year by state and national rule. So that is also, you're gonna see two things. You're gonna see in your department budget, you're gonna see EMS supplies, right? Because that's what's budgeted and should come up there. But you're gonna have some that's gonna come out of the revolving fund, which is what the Board of Selectmen has to approve of what I can spend out of that, which they did this year. So you see a line that says EMS training, EMS supplies, EMS equipment, and then you're gonna look at the bottom and it says machinery, which is the ambulance payment. We have cardiac monitors that get paid out of there, that doesn't come out of the budget. So that revenue comes in. I get a report every month from EMAX Medical Billing that says what we've billed out, what we've collected, and what the adjustments are from the month before, right?
Right, so this is what we paid out, because it's in
Yeah, that's what
the
we paid
negative,
out.
so this is what we paid out.
Yeah, so I can get you the billing report if you'd like, I can have that sent to Melaine. And it
Yeah.
shows EMAX medical billing, it says the whole year. And I can actually go upstairs and I can pull out what's actually in there, and that was on the town website on Monday. So-
Yeah. But what happens though, Eric, is that I send out a package of everything, so I think going forward, if, you know, when you print your report, or when it's completed, I don't know, first of the month, end of the month, whenever, you could just shoot me a copy and I'll have
I
it.
will do that. And what happens usually, and I think this is part of, like, John prints that report,
Yeah,
and I get the financial reports, and I usually put them out on a quarterly basis to the board.
right,
So when I get that, I can send it out. When you look at, and this is something to know, is when you look at the EMAX medical billing report, they go back year to date. So when, it's August 1st to the August 1st
July
of last
31st,
year,
yeah,
right?
okay,
So what I usually do is I try to take the report that is printed online, and I take it from January 1st, because that's how we run in the calendar year. So I can tell you what we made and what the projections will be.
okay.
So-
Yeah, just so that, you know, it's cleaner and better understanding, if you could send me that report, which will be, it's the EMAX,
EMAX medical billing.
so it will have the expenses, the billed and the collected.
Yep, I can do that.
Perfect.
And I can actually get you the MRI report too, which basically says all the transactions, but I can tell you that if you want 10 pages to look through, because they do it by the week and their deposits and stuff,
Mm-hmm,
it'll give you the end number, but it's a lot of transactions to look through from insurance companies, so.
okay. All right, and the other thing, if you could give me on a, whenever we meet, you know, if you could bring, and I ask every year for, you know, how many fires you went to, how many EMS calls,
Yep,
just so that everyone will have an understanding of the calls that the fire department's making.
absolutely, and I will make the statement, we did 797 was today. And the last time I had a meeting, we are on schedule to do 1,200. It's almost a 47% increase this year in call volume alone. Transports, in the reports that I was asked to build is we have almost 400 billable runs and stuff like that.
So
we're
the
doing a lot.
797, that's from January 1 through present, and that's just ambulance calls?
That's
Everything,
So
okay.
it's probably 76% of those are all EMS runs, and then when you talk about actual billable transports, it's probably, probably about 60%. So I have a bunch of reports I'm building right now because I was requested to, so once I have those two, they're all public.
Okay.
on them. I don't care.
Yeah, I just think it would be easier to have those reports so that
Yeah.
we can kinda,
Right now, if somebody asks me that question, how much does the ambulance cost and what does it make? I go, I don't know.
Well, so, and I can tell you I did the math, so you guys know the other day, because the reports is, to make it clear, I know there's been a lot of information out there, right? An ambulance will never make money.
No.
Make it so we're gonna make money. right? What they do is, and the state just changed the rules, we might make a little bit more money, is that revenue comes in to offset the expenses. If you see these ambulance companies that are going out of business, it's because like they're private ambulances, you know, they were struggling with funds. So the state and the legislature came together and said, we have a problem where we need to help out these communities to make sure ambulances can get out the door. So right now, we make a decent amount to offset the ambulance service itself. Right now, the cost on average to go out the door is $716 a call. We make daily an average of $885.17, I think it was, of what we come in. So when you take those numbers there, you're never gonna make money on it, you know, and that's why the fund was designed not to 100% make it self-sufficient. It's to take those budgets and offset those revenues to bring the numbers down, which we've been really well with. If you look at the numbers of where we were projected for the future, we're below that by a significant amount. Contrary to the information that's out there, that's why I tell you, if you wanna come see me, I work the budget every day. If you wanna sit down and I'll show you everything you wanna see of how it works, and you'll understand the dynamic, because we are actually doing very well for an ambulance service of our size. It's almost 1,200 calls a year. I could pull budgets from other towns that are at $1.5, $1.6 million. I actually just interviewed in a place down in Massachusetts that's identical to us, and theirs is $1.47 million. And we're just over $1 million if you talk about benefits. It's $800,000 for the fire department and the benefits. We are well below where we need to be, and we're doing a very good job of staying diligent on that, so.
Collections consistent with what Tri-Town did that?
Higher. So
Higher?
we chose, they use Comstar, and I used to use Comstar, and Hudson had it. So when we did our research to pick the billing company, I talked to many of them, and I got Emacs for medical billing out of Peterborough, New Hampshire, which was in the state. I spoke with them at length, and they have a lot of grant programs for low-income communities and stuff like that, where we can get a better return on what we do. And they have proven me right. I can say the average collection rate that we used to have, and when Mark was on the board too, you got to see some of these numbers, was 18,000 to 27,000 maybe, for monthly actual money in our pocket, not like what was billed out. And we've been consistently, and you know, when Ron's here, Ron looks at it with me too, consistently at $40,000 for the past 5 months. So we're doing better with that. Can I predict the future and say it's not gonna come down a little bit? No, but the plan we put in place when you guys decided as a budget committee and I brought it forward, we're doing well. If we stay on track, those times when we have to have big capital expenses, we'll be able to cover them. As long as we don't cut that account, and as long as we budget wisely for the future, all those big things that are coming, we'll be able to take that pretty easily if we're smart with it. So.
Eric, how long do billed revenues stay on as a receivable? At what point do we write them off?
So that's something the select board decides. So what will happen was, and like I said, Mark was on the board over there with me too, is they had 10 years worth of write-offs that they didn't touch. So when we did the dissolution, they had to write off almost $1 million in revenue because it was still on paper. We were never gonna collect it because once you get past that 6-month window, I think in 2 years they put people to collections, they might have collected $480. So it was costing more for the collections in it. So they still do it because what they do is a lot of the times when people get to that collections part, they actually will, you know, they'll collect some of those revenues. But it's a choice of the board. When Emacs comes to me and says you're getting to this threshold, they'll ask, do you want to write it off? I have to bring that to the board, and the board has to say yes or no.
Okay.
So.
All right. Any other questions on that, the billed revenues?
Well, and I would just, Eric brought up a point about anybody who wants to meet with him. It is very, very, very worthwhile to sit down with any of our department heads and kind of talk about the intricacies of their budget. Especially with fire and ambulance, where there's so many different avenues and so many different things, and revenues coming in. It really, really, really paints a clearer picture of how it operates, how it's done, where the money is, what happens with it, where the supplies come from, all that kind of stuff, right? I've sat with Eric hours. I've sat with Chief Tower. I sat with Chief Stark before Chief Tower. I've talked with and sat with Chad at the highway department, it's very, very beneficial to do that, to get a better understanding of how things are done and operated, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And when you're just one-on-one, it's a lot more comfortable to have those conversations and understand really where things are at, to make sure you clearly understand it, right? So I would encourage anybody to go ahead and set up the times to do that.
That's a good point, Keith, and it's been mentioned at other meetings, you know, please, you know, I encourage you as well. Reach out to the department heads, talk to them, get accurate information so that you're comfortable if anyone were to ask you anything, to be able to answer accurately.
Cause I can make sense of the black and white, cause everybody sees black and white numbers, but
Right.
what's behind it, I can usually justify it and give it to you, and I'm very much a person of constructive criticism and humility, so if there's something you have a question for, you wanna sit down, I'll take it, so we can look at it, but a lot of the times, there's a lot of inner workings that are not out there all the time, so.
And even actually more so with the one-on-one conversations, you get, I don't wanna say real answers, but you get more accurate, because there's not this persona of having a video, what's gonna be out there, what am I saying, who's gonna repeat that, what's happening, did I misspeak, so on and so forth. So you can really get to know and understand a little bit more and ask questions and have them be more comfortable answering in those aspects, if that makes sense, it sounds right, you know? And again, same with the school board. If people wanna know what's going on, we're gonna be having our budget meetings, we dedicated one school board meeting every other week or every month or whatever it was to just the budget. So if you wanna have a lot of fun, come and join us for that too.
Yeah. Okay, so any other questions on this? Okay, we'll move down. Fire department contracted services.
So
What is
that
that?
that is the ambulance billing.
Okay.
So basically, they charge a percentage based on how many calls we do. So I wanna say it's 7%, so that's over because again, we're in the default, and that was a bill amount for half a year.
Okay.
We have to do a full year, and with the call volume that's increased, that number obviously has gone up because we're doing more calls. Some of those funds are taken from that budget line you see, but if you look on the actual revolving fund one, and if anybody wants a copy, I have some here to look at it. Some of that has been charged there too for EMS services, that's helped to offset, that's what the board approved me to use some stuff for, so.
Perfect.
And I see you, Mark, over there looking, do you want a copy of this? If you guys want copies, you can pass it around. So essentially, some of those things you see on the lines, like EMS services, EMS supplies, are gonna show over because of the defaulted number. I have more too.
I'll take that.
Um,
I think I have it.
Wait,
This one packet.
It was
Yeah.
not, that's why I printed them wrong.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fire department training outside. What?
So, that was defaulted last year at 0 and it was paid for out of the revolving fund. If you notice, there's only a $250 expense there. Basically, that, we are required, like I said, by the national standard in the state's rules to do, continuing ed. So we have to do each, it depends on your level of certification, we have to do so many hours a year. So we have to provide that as a training, because it has to be, as they say, CAPC certified, so it can't just be like, hey, we're gonna do training here today, it has to be a sanctioned company. So we had to pay an outside company that does video learning, and that actually, 90% of it is gonna be paid for out of the revolving fund. So
Okay.
you said $250 is what that's.
Okay. Now I'm down to fire department dispatch. That must be mutual aid fire compact.
Yeah, and that's something we have to pay no matter what,
Right.
so. And I would
So was
expect-
that, did that contract go up, or is that because we're in default?
Yeah, we're in default, so.
Okay.
Proposed was, that number was 48,500, so that difference you see is because we have to pay that to be able to be dispatched.
Okay. And then jumping down to fire department EMS supplies, I'm taking it that this 2,600 came out of revolving funds. Yes.
No, that it is over budget, the overall budget is there, but I will tell you that, the predicted number we had asked for the budget was close to $18,000 for EMS supplies. So if you look at the revolving fund sheet that I just put there, you'll see the line that says EMS supplies, and that has almost, equipment has almost
$282.
$15,000 taken out of it, so.
Oh, that's equipment,
Yeah,
okay.
equipment and supplies will help together, so.
Okay.
I as we move on throughout the year, more is gonna be charged to that to make it to our threshold that we would approve to be able to spend.
All right. Now I'm on page 6. Thank you, Eric. You and I walked the hook.
Any other questions, anything before I go?
For now.
Just because I like to come here. Any-
Well, the good thing and what's important to the way you read these budgets is if you go to the end of the fire line, the fire department budget, keep in mind that fire department heads manage bottom line of their budgets, so that we still have money, 75% has been expended, and that's pretty normal this time of year. So it's not like they're overspending their,
No, and if you actually look at mine, we're probably about 11% under right now.
okay,
So as we get closer to the end of the year, we'll spend more. So we're probably about 64% spent, so, and that's, I have to update some numbers with John. so
Okay.
I'm watching it closely.
thank you. Any other questions of Eric, though, while we're on?
Thank you guys, have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, building inspector, 1787 overspent, multi-department administrative salary. Is that the new hire, Diane?
Where are you? The-
I'm on
oh,
page 6.
multi-department?
Yeah,
Yes, that is, that's the other Jackie.
okay, and
Yeah, why it's over,
is it because we're in default?
quite possibly, yeah.
All right,
Well, was an actual budget done based on what you had to spend? Are these numbers total budget? Do they reflect that?
Which-
so when you go into default, you have to honor anything that's contractual or anything, that you're going by last year's
Like the
budget with
salary.
any adjustments to salaries or contractual things. That's how the default works, correct
But
me
the
if I'm
total
wrong.
budget, does it reflect the default budget numbers?
This budget, this total budget here that you're looking at, that's your default budget. That's the default
Okay.
budget.
They got 89,000 in there and they spent 63.
You know, again though, bottom line, they've got 70, they've spent 71%.
71% of the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah. Okay, nothing on EM. So now I'm down to highway. So this is your highway department. Highway cable, internet, phone. I'm sure this is part of default. But I will get clarification. And heat and oil. Let's see what else is on highway. And overtime. They have some overtime. But again, overtime was not budgeted because of default. While we're on highway though, I do want to point out that I did talk to John because I wanted to report back what the status of the new highway department is. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told that all of the foundation, all that was approved, the septic, all that was approved from the state.
They had to go through, there was a kind of a delay, because they had to go through a couple inspections, because they had an area that had like soft sand.
Yeah,
So, and if that isn't calculated and done properly, nobody's gonna.
but apparently everything's been
I think
remedied
it is
and
now.
all
It did
approvals
take-
are in place and they're moving forward.
did take a
So I
long
just
time.
wanted to share that, because I drive by when
It
I
took
stop
a-
at the school
yeah.
and nothing's been happening, but you're gonna start seeing something over there.
Yeah, it took a lot longer than expected.
Yeah. And they didn't even have a turtle, like the school. Okay. All right, so nothing else is jumping out here at me. And I think everything else is looking good. Any comments on the expenditures? Anything you would like me to get you answers to that we didn't discuss?
Elaine, can you, maybe ask John, and I don't know
Sure.
who, it's really hard for the selectmen to answer some of these questions.
Mhm.
So when we get these reports and they see that they're so far off,
Mm-hmm.
right? Somebody just needs to start a little narrative, like
Okay.
why that is, right? Because it is really difficult.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it's hard for Diane to know.
I can't be there all day, every day.
Yeah.
No, and I don't mean to put you on the
Yeah,
spot,
no, I
Diane, it's just I thought a lot of the
Yeah,
stuff you would know.
There's been so much going on in the town, especially with turnover in the finance department and whatnot. I just think it would be really, really helpful if
Sure.
there was just a little bit of a narrative on why those numbers are off.
Yeah.
Why they're overexpended, right?
Okay.
And again, you know, we can't keep saying because we're in default, because it doesn't matter. If they're overexpended, they're overexpended, right?
Right,
So-
but default is playing a big part of this, so long as they're managing their bottom line.
As long as they're
Right.
managing the bottom line,
Right.
correct, right? But it was great to have Chief Lambert here because
Yes.
he could explain everything to us.
Mhm.
You know, we can't probably necessarily expect every
Department head to be
department
here.
head to be here to explain, but I think we just had that little narrative, that might be
I will
really
talk with
helpful.
John, cause I plan on being there when he returns and get more clarification. Yes, Chris?
Under the solid waste disposal, I'm just curious, I know that it's a lot less than what was budgeted, but do we know why it's so much less? It's, landfill maintenance and testing, budgeted for $6,800, but only $101.
68, 101.
I'm just curious.
It could be that they spent the money and it's, you know, it's encumbered, and they
Okay.
just haven't put it through yet.
Okay.
But we can certainly get clarification on that as well.
Or-
That would be my guess. The money has probably been spent and it's,
Well, and I believe that's a testing of the wells in the landfill, well, the old landfill, right?
The
'Cause
old
that used to be a
landfill,
landfill, and that's,
right.
when they dug out the highway garage, they found lots of tires and lots of stuff.
probably
To where-
bodies.
To where the new highway garage is going.
Like everything was buried there.
Partial bodies, not whole body.
So I
You
know,
never know.
I know there was testing that had to be done
Mhm.
there because stuff was buried because of the
Right.
well, the people in the wells
Yeah.
surrounding that land. So I think that's what that is. I think that's what, if I remember correctly,
And
I
I'm
think that's what
thinking
that
that
line
money's
item
been
is.
has been spent and not paid.
Or it just
I-
hasn't
hit the-
hit the test yet for this
Right.
year,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because remember, they had to go for all their permitting for the new highway garage. But I will get clarity on it for you, making myself little notes. So are we good with the expenditure reports?
I think that our department heads have done a really good job of trying to maintain in this default budget with giving us the
Yeah.
services we need.
Yes,
We all know we don't have garbage, we all know paving's not getting done, we all know that there's probably not the police presence out that we want all the time. You know, those things are really difficult to go ahead and do.
but I really believe they're doing the best they can with what they
They're
have.
doing the best they can, but it's very, it's gonna be very scary
Challenging.
and challenging,
Mhm.
looking down the line about, let's just take paving for instance. We all remember when our taxes used to roller coaster, because we would say, nope, we're not gonna spend anything, and then instead of maintaining the roads,
We're replacing the
we're
roads.
replacing the roads,
Yeah.
and that stuff kinda happened, so. Although they're doing a great job managing the budget, we don't know of services that aren't being happened, cause we really haven't seen them yet.
Right.
I know paving's one of them, right?
Yes, yeah.
I know there's other things, that I can't just remember off the top of my head that just aren't being done. That I think we're eventually gonna see, and it's gonna look pretty scary.
We're gonna be playing catch up at some point, and I hope that, the whole budget season is smooth and, we get a good handle on it, because I know this meeting will probably go a little longer than normal, but I think it's important that we
Yeah.
go and ask these questions, rather than just come in here and rubber stamp budgets. So that's why we're going through the exercise, but good point, Keith. So the revenue, again, this is a moving target, but apparently taxes are coming in.
Yeah, we have gotten.
Yeah.
Well, we sent out letters,
Mm-hmm,
and at the last meeting, we signed waivers, property we're deeding.
mm-hmm,
So we haven't done that in like 5 years,
yeah.
5 years, 6 years?
Because
But,
last time I talked to John, there was tons of money in outstanding taxes.
Correct. So, we have collected quite a bit. There are several people that signed, payment plans.
Good.
Hopefully they don't default.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had gone down to like $1.3 million of uncollected taxes, so we climbed up from there.
Which really, if you put it in perspective, for every $535,000, according to the total town assessment, that is spent on the budget, reflects $1 on your tax bill. So to keep that in mind, if you know, like 1,200 is outstanding in taxes, that's $2 on your tax rate.
Yeah.
So it adds up.
It does, and the challenge is, you know, the homes in, co-ops are challenging. Because if we were to take those, or we take those homes, then the town is responsible to pay the park rent.
Right.
So it's a balance of how much money you're gonna spend, you know, to collect taxes, so.
Yeah.
Those situations are very challenging as opposed to, you know, stick-built houses and
Right.
properties and stuff like that, so. It would be nice to collect all that money, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's tough. And it would make, that would make the difference in our taxes.
Yeah.
It would, so.
And I don't know why it hadn't been done in like 5 years. I don't, you know, I'm not
I just walked in
obviously
March, I don't
pointing,
know.
yeah, no,
I
I'm not.
understand.
You know, but it's just, it's
And I don't
money,
think-
it's,
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna find that gap again, I think we're gonna.
yeah, stay on
make sure
top of that.
Yeah, stay on top of that.
And there's an expense with that too, when you start deeding properties, there's an expense.
Exactly, so
to
that
that.
taps into our legal budget. You know, we should have a conversation with John, we may have to possibly put in a warrant article to put some money aside for that purpose, because if we go through our legal fees and we don't have the money to spend legal fees, then our hands are tied.
Right.
And then, you know, we get caught up in this year after
Yeah.
year, and, you know, unfortunately, the people who, you know, pay their taxes every year have to, you know, absorb that amount of taxes that
Right.
doesn't get
Right.
paid. So,
And it adds up, and it adds up
it
quickly,
adds up,
it
and it adds
does.
up fast, and, you know, we've got people, I understand we've got people struggling to stay in their houses.
No,
but
you,
That's part
right.
of the reason is because they're, you know, paying
And you
somebody
wanna be
else's taxes.
sensitive to that, obviously, so,
Exactly.
okay. Any questions on revenues? Okay, so off to capital reserve accounts. So this is through, this is the August, the July report. But he said it was pretty close, he hasn't gotten the new
I'm
one.
gonna have a hard time reading that.
But all in all, a total of, capital reserve accounts that we have is what, 55, no, that's with income, $4.8 million. So, that's rainy day funds for specific categories. And it is a lot of money, but keep in mind that a capital reserve account can only be expensed for the purposes in which it was established, so. So it's doing good, and we're realizing some great income on this.
Is there a way to reduce the amount of money we put into the capital reserve?
Historically, when we put into capital reserve, it's always been with unassigned fund balances, which has no tax impact.
So that's all done through warrant articles.
Yeah.
So the money can't go in capital reserve unless there's a warrant article saying, you know, does the town want to put $100,000 into the highway garage capital reserve fund? So the taxpayers vote on the money going into the capital reserve
I
fund.
know, and they've been voting on a lot of this stuff over the last many years.
Yeah.
And I think they didn't realize what the impact was.
What do you
Well,
mean?
what's the impact?
Our tax rate, right now, our taxes are pretty high. I think a lot of times you go to the ballot and it says this affects your taxes by $2 or
Yeah.
something like that. And a lot of people say, okay, and they've been voting for this capital reserve, which in some cases is probably prudent.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden, we've got all these bills coming in and our taxes are very high for what we have for a house here. And it's because they voted for a lot of these things over the years, not realizing what the impact was.
See, I disagree with you because we've taken money out of capital reserve for paving projects. And if we didn't have that money in capital reserve, we wouldn't be able to do the paving projects, which would cause taxes to go up, right? If we don't save the money to buy a new ambulance, right? If you look at some of the things, to buy a new fire truck, to go ahead and buy a new
That's a
highway
poor
department.
example because of the revolving fund.
Well, now it is, but it wasn't before, right?
Used to do it.
But to buy a new highway truck, to buy a new highway plow, Are you gonna go ahead, if you see a budget and all of a sudden there's $450,000 in there to buy a new
Probably
tall
say no.
tall truck for the highway, you're
Yeah.
gonna say no, right?
Yeah.
So by putting that money bound into capital reserve funds,
Through unassigned fund
for
balances.
unassigned fund balances, and what happens is, once you buy back taxes, and this is what happened, I think, right? This is what happened last year. So the town had no money left to buy back taxes, because they kept buying back taxes for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, however long it was. Last year, they couldn't buy back taxes. They couldn't give money out of their unassigned fund balance because it hit what the state recommends in the threshold, right? The bottom, the floor. So what ended up happening was they couldn't buy back taxes. So you saw spike in your property taxes because we were artificially giving people money back. And so instead of seeing a 20-cent increase, a 50-cent increase, all of a sudden we saw a $2.50 increase, whatever that number was. I can't remember. I'm just using numbers, right? And so, you know, when you buy back taxes all the time, you end up being worse off later
It's a
on.
false sense of security.
It's a false sense of security. It's just like we all, as homeowners, right? I put money away because I needed to go ahead and reshingle my house this year, right? And we know when we buy a house and it's got 30-year shingles on it, we know we gotta start saving for that because we're gonna have to go ahead and re-roof our house, right? I could have taken out a loan for $10,000, or I could have saved money for it. I decided to save money for it, right? This is a town savings account, just like we do in our house, right?
I understand the concept. I just don't think we can afford it. My taxes have gone up precipitously the last 5, 6, 7 years, like $5,000, $6,000. I don't see where we're saving any money, and I understand you have to predict and prepare for the future, but we have to figure out a way to drastically cut these taxes down. And that's one way to do it.
Well, it's not gonna drastically cut them down. I'll tell you the way.
Maybe
to drastic-
temporarily.
There you go, temporarily, because then you're gonna see that $10,000 spike, right?
Yeah.
So temporarily doesn't work. The best way to go ahead and do it is, as I said last year when I presented the school budget, is contact your state legislators and have them properly fund education. They're taking more and more and more money away, that's putting it on the individual.
And what if they do that
town.
again? And what if the school expenses keep going up and up and up? My
The school
taxes.
expenses didn't go up last year, we
No,
actually.
no, no, I'm saying, what if the state all of a sudden hammers us and says, you know what? We're cutting you some more. My taxes will be $20,000 before I blink.
Well, that's
And-
why we have to contact the state legislatures and have them, because that's really where it's at. The $6,000 town budget is a small, is a portion, is half, about half the amount of the school budget,
Right,
right?
which is one of my questions. Did we get the rest of that money from the state? Where do we get the rest of that school budget?
Yeah, whatever the town, the state gives us some money, I think, and I apologize, I don't have that number off the top of my head. It's $4,000 or $7,000, somewhere in that range, that they say is what they pay for education, and then the rest is raised by the town. Yeah, so that's where it comes from, is from the town. They took away adequacy aid, they've taken away donor towns, they've taken away all that kind of stuff. So small towns like Allenstown, look at Colebrook, they're $4.5 million,
Claremont.
Claremont, right?
I think we're heading in that direction. We're gonna go broke. That's where we're headed. If something happened next year and our revenues go way down for whatever reason, we're in big trouble. And we're not even thinking that. We keep looking like we're gonna keep going ahead.
So you might not be looking at that, but I know on the school board, we look at that all the time, right? And we talk about that, and we talk about getting in, we actually invited our legislatures that take care of Allenstown to come and do a school board meeting to talk about how they're gonna help with funding for education. Then they just passed the laws about, school choice, right? Where I can say, I'm gonna send my kid over to Concord. Guess who has to pay for that? Allenstown School District pays for that. So Allenstown School District isn't getting the money, but that $14,000 has to go to Concord to pay for that education. So they're losing way more than what you think, right? So school choice really goes ahead and hurts because they're not, again, funding education properly. There is a lot that's going on with education, and it really boils down to how are they going ahead and funding it. There is stuff in the Supreme Court again right now. right? So, you know, I know what you're saying, Mark, I really know what you're saying, but a small town like Allenstown can only do so much,
Exactly.
right? I talked to
I
my
think
neighbor.
I think we're over our budget right now.
I talked to my neighbor about, he's like, Keith, how come like, Greenland can go ahead, like their property tax rate's like, again, using stupid numbers here, $20 per thousand, and we're paying $32 per thousand. He goes, they're roughly the same size, they're roughly the same size budget for the school and for the town, roughly the same amount of people, the same amount of businesses, so on and so forth. He used to work for the DMV, so he knew the town clerks all over the place and would talk to them. So I said, Jeff, I don't know, but let me look into it. So I went and looked into it. All right, what was the difference?
Their assessments.
Their assessments. They're paying $8,000 like we are in property
See,
taxes.
to me, that's just the game that's been played. You know, they
Correct.
reassess and they lower the rate. And
Yeah,
the bottom line is, what are they paying for taxes
but
on an average house?
on an average house, they're
Yeah.
paying $8,000 to $10,000 just like we are in Allenstown.
I think we're paying more than that in Allenstown. I'm paying almost 12. I got an average house.
But if you go and look at Greenland, you'll see that they're paying the same amount, but their houses are valued at $750,000 instead of $500,000 or $400,000.
Right. If you just look at one portion,
But-
you're not getting the whole picture.
But if you start looking at different properties, you'll see they're on average paying the same amount we are per house. Their evaluations are different. They're still paying $8, $10, $12, $14,000 in property taxes per property. They're paying less per thousand,
Right.
but you can't look at that because
No.
that's just, like you say, it's a numbers game, right?
I think so.
You know, but again, it goes back to proper funding, and I know we're getting way off topic here, and I apologize.
No, that's okay.
And the other thing is, how much power or authority or how much sway do we have on the budget?
We
As
can
in-
recommend or not recommend that, and it
That's
goes on
about
the
it.
ballot. That's about it.
So we
which-
really don't have that much.
We
We
look at
can't
the
put our foot
numbers,
down or anything like that.
because
Well,
so
who
much
do you
of
wanna
it,
not pay, right?
that?
I mean, who are we gonna not pay, you know, I mean, the school needs a
Well,
certain
we gotta
amount of
get
money.
creative and look
The
at
town needs a
ways.
certain amount of money, when you look at like where your money goes, the school takes up the biggest chunk, which it does in most towns, right?
Yeah.
And that's our most vulnerable, you know, we're dependent on the state, right, so that's a big chunk. And then you get to the school gets their money, cause the town, when we collect taxes, check has to go to the school, they get their money. The county gets their money, the state gets their money. What's left is fire, police, town hall, and highway, right? That's the smallest part, so, you know, and then you factor in people who aren't gonna pay their taxes, right? Everybody's already gotten their money, but these four little departments, so, you know, that's where we take the biggest hit, so people go and they vote down the budget, the town budget, it's like you're just cutting your infrastructure when you've got, you know, other big dollars that are being spent, you know, elsewhere, I mean, it's,
yeah, we have very little control.
I mean, you
We can't
can't,
do anything really about the school. The school is the school, they need the schools. But, I mean, the only place that we can do it is in all those other little, cause that's all we have to work with.
I know, but you can only
Can't
cut
take
that
away
down so
trash
much.
again, so we're gonna have to go somewhere else. and
Every,
figure out where
we
it's
gotta
gonna
get
come from.
creative somehow.
Yeah.
And every
Or
time
bring in more
something,
revenue.
every time
More.
something is brought up, there's usually
Yeah.
somebody that says, no, can't do that. Like
Well, I
the,
mean, bring stuff up.
like the library, I would say,
Okay.
can we somehow work a deal with Hooksett and Pembroke and say, can we use your library?
Pembroke
We'll
is,
pay you,
Pembroke
Library's
is,
so small though.
How much is
it's
that?
$70,000 bucks.
Yeah, but
yeah.
well, what's that on your
It'll
taxes?
probably,
Right?
that was
something.
looked at before.
Yeah,
Now, again, 10 or 12 years ago, right? That was looked at before. It was brought up by Dave, Coolidge, right? And it would cost more money to go to Pembroke or Hooksett than it would be to have our own library. Because, and that was actually physically looked at as an idea. But the way the funds go and what they would charge us for library cards and for people to go there, it would actually cost us more money. Now, again, I'm talking 10 or 12 years ago, that was actually looked at and brought up about, do we really need the library? So,
again, we gotta get creative, we gotta think of things, and every time something's brought up, I've heard it a million times, oh no, can't do that, can't do that. So we keep marching in the same direction. Where is that gonna leave us?
well,
It's gonna-
Ideas and solutions.
It's gonna
Bring
leave
them
you with a
forward.
default budget again.
It's exactly,
what's gonna
we're gonna
happen.
be in permanent default, which to me, I don't see what, you can call it my fault, your fault, or whoever's fault, I don't know. A budget is a budget, right? We're gonna be heading in some kind of direction like that, where people won't be paying their taxes. Certain things, if the state whaps us with funding for education, we're gonna be in a pretty bad spot. We'll be right next to Claremont again.
Well, we were going in the right direction for a long time.
We
Right?
were.
And I think we just hit a speed bump.
Yeah.
But I think that the thing to do is.
We gotta either grow our way or cut spending.
Like, I say to people, like, what are ideas? When I have my neighbors or other people talk to me and say the same thing that you just said, I'm like, great, give me some ideas on how we can cut spending. Where can we
That's
cut
gonna make a
spending?
difference,
Right,
right?
that's,
For the short term, cutting spending, and maybe the long term, try and grow our way out of some of these problems.
and how,
Give us some
give
ideas.
us some ideas on how to grow and bring business.
Every time a business comes to this town, it seems like we hit them with a pitchfork. I hear it all the time.
Well, what do you mean? You gotta
Well,
be more
McDonald's,
specific.
I think McDonald's, I'm one way, I don't care one way or the other. But, oh, they can't do that, they can't do this, they can't. It's like, we should encourage people to come to this town.
And we do have incentives put in place by the Economic Development Committee.
We do?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know you haven't, I don't know if you've been to, in the past town meetings to see what we've actually brought into the community. Because we started out in the Economic Development Committee with the same problem we had. You have Bear Brook State Park right there, which eats up a lot of your land. We have a very small actual economic center right
Footprint,
here.
yeah.
Footprint. Compared to everywhere else around, it's very
Mhm.
tiny. So we gotta figure out, what are we gonna do, right? So we put incentives in to bring other businesses in, and we brought in, how many have we brought in? We have the retirement facility that we brought in.
And they're adding on another
They're adding
building,
on
which will
there.
help.
Several different business
That brings
storage
a
units.
lot of money in town.
We brought in
$300
we've
a
actually
month.
grown a lot of different businesses that come in here.
Brady
With some
Sullivan.
Tax incentives,
Yeah.
tax incentives, they haven't, and that'll level out in the next few years. I know it's not now, but that should start leveling out too. We're actually gonna start seeing some of that.
2
come in.
years and Brady Sullivan will be fully on the tax roll.
I think 2 years Brady Sullivan will be fully on the tax roll, and I think 2 years
Hillsborough.
will be fully on the tax roll.
And once they're fully on the tax roll, that will make a big
Well,
I
help.
think that's gonna make a huge difference, so we just gotta figure
That's-
out if we
yeah.
can get
That's the
Hi, Deb.
exact way that you have to look at it, though. You have to say, okay.
Could you state your name for the
we need
record,
to make sure that
please?
we're attractive, we can bring people in here, that we can
That
bring
was Deb
businesses in
Carney.
here, that we can maintain those businesses. But when you start talking about cutting different things, like like the library, a community type based thing, that I hear that a lot, 'cause I'm on the board for the library. And we've done a lot to bring that up, to bring that community, to bring that sense back there with our reading programs, so stuff that you're probably not even aware of. But you start cutting those things out temporarily, but you're hurting you're hurting the community in the long run, right? Then to be able to get back those things, you're not gonna be able to get back those things. But the way we do have to look at it is, how are we gonna grow, correct? When it's hard to
I'd
grow
say
anywhere.
short term, cut spending, long term, we gotta grow
You gotta have a
our
balance
base.
of what you're doing, right, though, because you don't wanna cut your throat later on by just getting rid of things that you're gonna not be able to get back, or not be able to get back in the same way. That balance is important, which is what we've been struggling with a long time. It's, for what we have, how are we gonna bring in businesses and grow, correct? What's gonna be attractive, and we've worked very hard to bring those in. We were doing a very good job bringing it. Right now, this is, to be honest with you, I'm gonna talk a little bit, freely, and hopefully I won't offend anybody, but for a long time, we were all on the same sheet of music, and it seemed like this town was really digging out of a hole that it was in, right? And I was very proud of where we were going to, and now all of a sudden I look back and I'm seeing nothing but division amongst everybody. Stories here, people talking, everything, it's like a split, like everything's like split. No one's on the same sheet of music to get what we need to do with the things that you're talking about. And I was very disappointed, and I'm hoping that we can get back together with that goal. It's not only to cut taxes, yeah, great, we need to. I'm just like, I'm a blue collar worker, right? It's hard for me to pay my taxes too. We gotta look, okay, what are we doing here? Not only to cut our taxes, but also make this a place where people are gonna wanna live. They're gonna wanna keep here and have families. I'm so happy to see kids and people out there pushing their strollers and walking around. I never saw that for a long period of time.
I bumped into 2 young couples in the last month or so that moved here in the last few years, and they say this spring they're putting their houses up for sale and they're getting the hell out
I
of
said,
here.
well, we gotta figure out how can we stop this. And I understand that, and everybody's here for a certain reason, right? And hopefully that reason is to make this community better, affordable, so we can stay here, correct? Hopefully, we're on the same sheet of music and not just, okay, I'm here because my taxes are high, I wanna slash everything. That's, okay, if that's the reason why you're here, that's your reason. But it should be, okay, I wanna make it affordable, but I also wanna make this town good, correct? I wanna make sure that it's attractive.
Cause that's
so
where you're
people
gonna
wanna
attract
stay.
people.
Right.
And it's a difficult balance, and I'm not saying there's no silver bullet. I
It
know,
is a
but
balance act.
We have to
It's
try
a
to
huge
figure out how
balance
we're gonna
act.
get there, yeah.
But one of the big hindrances we have is social media.
Yeah,
And
sure.
be honest with that, because people
5
start.
people on there
People
stirring
start
it
going
up.
on there and they start complaining and, you know, there's 15,000, I got exaggeration, right? Complaints about why are they putting a McDonald's in there? Well, if
'Cause
you're,
it's
if
They're
you're a
gonna be on the
business.
rent, on
Well,
the
there's probably
taxes.
taxes.
15 or
Looking.
20, but, you know.
But,
more
but
like
right, but if you're a
5.
business and looking, are you gonna be like, wow, that town just doesn't support anybody, so why do I wanna look at going in there? We have vacant buildings that we can't get, and why can't we get those? Part of it is, I think Jeff's right, because there's a division all of a sudden, and people are like, what do I wanna go there for? Like, right, why do I wanna put my roots and money in that town that is gonna be divided? I think that plays a big part in that, you know, I think it plays a very, very, very big part.
There was a
in
time
those
several
things.
years ago where, I mean, over the last maybe 10 years, we kind of leveled it, you know, so the taxes kind of were leveled. Prior to that, the town was floating TANs every year, tax anticipation notes, because they didn't have the money to pay. I mean, we were in a mess back then.
Well, and to speak as a department head, if I could, when you look at it and I've been here for almost 30 years, I mean, I just came back to Allenstown, and I remember the days when those very things you were talking about, when the fire department couldn't go out and buy toilet paper because we were in a default budget and there was no money. So, as to Mark's point, like, you know, you want stuff to come into town. I do too, I'm a taxpayer. The problem that we can't do is if you're gonna ask for more things to come into town, which requires more infrastructure, if we don't plan both, and we don't look at both, if we just look to cut, now it might cost ourselves more money in the long term. When we actually get to the point where we have to, we're forced to do it, it's gonna cost twice as much. And I've been here for many years where I've seen that, and I use the fire department as a model. Is I remember when we had a 1976 fire truck with a steering linkage fell off, driving in the parking lot, and that truck, and the chief had proposed replacing 2 trucks with 1. That specific truck went up almost 5% in a year, and because we wanted to cut the spending, we paid more in the long run because the infrastructure was needed. And I use the medical facilities. If they build a second 20-bed memory care unit there, as we plan the tax benefit that we're gonna get from it, we also need to plan the infrastructure to be able to handle it, because if we can't get out the door, we can't collect the revenue to go with it. And that was part of the change here, is that Hillsbrook is a big facility that helps offset the running of the fire department, which gives you full-time people, which we didn't have before. So
I almost
have to
wish
be
we
smart.
would, instead of spending the money before the eggs were laid by the chicken, you know, it seems like we're spending the money before we even get the chickens here, you know?
Yeah, and
We
it has to
should
be a
wait,
balance.
we should wait until we collect those revenues. It seemed like, you know, when Brady Sullivan came here, it was like, oh boy, why don't we wait until we collect those revenues
To spend the money.
before we start spending it.
The hard part is say for instance, they build this next facility, right? They open on day 1. We have to respond on day 2. But we, like to Jeff's point, if we give them that tax break to bring the businesses into town,
Exactly.
we have to wait for that. But you might not be able to, and you might be forced to. So if you plan both accordingly together, where we can offset it, then that's the positive thing to do, to make it so we're not spending twice as much long term. And I think that's the vision, like with everything that's been with the ambulance service and the fire services, we didn't have an existing fire department. You were paying taxes on a fire department that would not show up. And that was part of the building the infrastructure for the future, so we could go to Hillsbrook. So instead of them standing outside for 20 minutes in the cold, the fire department could go there and put a fire out maybe before it got bigger. I use Granite Street as an example. That fire would have been way different had we not got there within a minute and a half. Would have been way different. Could have been people stuck in there, we couldn't have been able to get them out, might have had a hose line there protect them. So that infrastructure that we built paid off on Granite Street for them, to be able to get them out. Even in Hillsbrook right now, with taking care of the seniors that are over there, it's a kind of a give and take, that you have to build both at the same time, so.
I think that's kind of what the discussion is before we've had here when we were talking about everything. It's like, when you start, we are still going through a little bit of growing pains. I know it's hard to believe that, but we are, for what the infrastructure and stuff that we brought in and the types of businesses that we brought in. It was a very difficult situation where you're like, okay, if, let's say we don't spend anything, right? The cost is never gonna go down. You're gonna end up catching up and trying to do it or not providing adequate service. So when we were trying to plan, it's like any type of community planning, if you've ever been involved in any type of planning whatsoever, those are the things you have to kind of do a little bit of a reverse planning and saying, okay, this is your date, the date that you're gonna be starting everything. You have to start planning backwards, and you have to understand that you can't wait till later. That has to be built in, which is, it's an expense. It's gonna cost a little bit, but you have to build it in, or it's gonna be twice as much at the end. And I understand what you're saying, but the balance is, and that's why we're here, that's why we're meeting. And what you're saying is healthy and it's awesome, and I think that we all need to have that attitude. Okay, like what can we do? What's creative? And meet with everybody and figure out what each budget has, what each thing has, what room do we have, why is this way? What do you have on the pipeline 2-3 years? Why are you doing this now? Because a lot of times we don't think about that. We think about the present, and it's tough.
And I do want to point out too that when we were, back in 2018, when we started to do the whole school, getting those committees in place to build a new school, when we were preparing it was 2020 when it went to town meeting to get the new school approved. When we were doing the budgets that year, it's just important. I'm gonna say this because I don't think people really understand how the department heads really work together. When we were going through those budgets, Keith, you all remember, it was a large number, a $13 million bond. It was a large number. Looking back, it was the best thing we could have done. It really was the best thing we could have done, because now it would have cost 50, 60. But the state had put such a timeline on us. They had given us we had a 5-year window, because they were gonna condemn this building. It was, you all heard the spiel. But at that very same meeting, Eric had mentioned about the fire department getting a ladder truck. And it was like, but in talking with him and saying, if we do a ladder truck and we do the new school, they're both gonna get killed at the ballot. We knew that. And you pulled, that fire truck didn't go on the ballot that year. So it's, trying to be sensitive to, what's going on and the necessities. And that new school, believe it or not, has brought in some really good, look at your property values, which is part of the problem right now, right? I get it. But who would have thought, if I could, I never in a million years would have thought that I could get $500,000 for my house. I wouldn't buy my house for $500,000, but I'm just saying that property values went up, and that was.
Yeah, but they went up everywhere.
I was gonna
No,
say.
they did.
It's not an Allenstown
No,
thing. They're way too high for me up north, and that's where I wanna go.
Yeah. No, you're right. They're high everywhere, but
There's nothing up there.
We can't turn back the clock. We spent those things,
The
we've
school
done
was
that.
the school was a really good thing, and it did increase it.
It did
makes
increase
the
property
town- It
values.
makes more people want to come to the town. And that's what it is Allenstown, there's a lot of great things with Allenstown,
And
but
Right.
we also have to wanna keep them here.
Right.
And those taxes are killing people that they're moving because they can't afford it. You can't afford it if your mortgage payment all of a sudden goes up $300 a month because your taxes went up, cause a lot of
Because of the
people put
escrow.
taxes in escrow.
Right.
Exactly,
Right.
and so while we might have more things coming on to the plan, that we have to plan on the infrastructure in the future, and I get that. But we're gonna have to do it conservatively because we don't even know what really we're gonna have to look at the planning of what those new buildings are gonna really bring in. What are the reports, what are the statistics that get you that point, that you say that you're gonna need X amount of dollars. And we might have to do it at a slower pace than where you wanna get to. You're not gonna get everything at once because the people can't afford it, and that's what's gonna
That's the
happen.
balance.
Yeah,
And the one
that's-
thing I will say to Melanie's point is that is a critical thing. A lot of the times, we all talk ahead of times. I usually sit down and get input. My budget this year is probably not going up very much because we've been doing what we need to get through. So whatever I asked for last year will be the same as this year, because it's one of those processes where I, as a department head, fully understand the stress because my taxes went up too.
But we've
And-
gotten a lot over the last few years, cause the town has been very generous in the last few years with voting everything through
Exactly.
and giving it.
Yeah.
But because the taxes have gone up so much now, people just can't, they can't,
It's like
they're,
sticker
they're,
shock.
they're dry.
So, and I think that's the part I'm talking about is basically, is we know there's certain things that don't have to go through.
Right.
You know what I mean? The
Right,
things we
and
can,
that's what,
we can go out 2 years
and
for,
space them.
to Melane's point, like, that was at
Yeah.
the time when we didn't have a truck and it was almost $900,000 for a truck. And I'm like, well, no, we're not gonna ask for that. So how far can we push this out? Instead of a 20-year truck, maybe we have a 25-year truck, so.
But, I mean, I think if we've got those incentive things that are gonna come out, cause yeah, Brady Sullivan's gonna add a lot more to the tax base once they start paying taxes. Same thing with,
Hillsborough.
Hillsborough, that's gonna add more, and if that's 2 years down the road, I think we just have to realize in the next 2 years,
Just be sensitive.
yeah,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
try to
can-
keep it,
can you
tight until
handle-
we get to that
I'm
point.
sorry. Can you handle a new addition to Hillsborough underneath with existing manpower expenses, et cetera, et cetera?
So there's many ways to tackle it, right, as we go along. If we get that increase and with aggregate buying Pork Chop Hill, or as I know it, but the Plord property and him developing it, if that's 5 years down the road, then we're gonna probably have a demand for a need to be able to increase, to be able to cover those. Right now, we're doing pretty well. Statistically, we're getting out the door, I think we're only, I think it was only 15 times this year we've had to bring in the ambulance from next door to help us out. But we should, altogether, plan for that for the future. There's grant programs through the government that if you needed staffing, they'll pay for the first 3 years, and it steps down to the point where the taxes are coming in and it offsets it, if they award you those grants. So as I move along in this position, that is my goal, you know, is I will plan the infrastructure changes with what's coming in. And I think that's the biggest part, like I told the board, is like, that's what I want you guys to ask me to do, because that's what you pay me for. So I wanna make sure I'm being responsible, but yet still planning for the big hit that we're gonna take in 3 years. 20 memory care beds will tax us. We'll be able to handle it, and we should plan for the future, but we have a 47% increase in call volume here. Do I think that 20 beds will cause another 47%? No. I think it might cause a 15 to 20% change, but I don't know that until we actually start getting into what's the plan, looking at other towns. But to your point, that's something that us together, when I present and say, this is what it is, how do we get to the goal to make sure we're covering our obligations?
Now, quick question, besides McDonald's, is there any whispers or anything of anybody thinking about moving into town, or?
Diane, have you heard anything? I haven't, from the zoning board standpoint, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything going in front of planning.
No, I mean, the last thing that was approved was McDonald's.
Okay.
They were approved.
So was Sean gonna go into Rite Aid?
Maybe.
I was in Aubuchon's yesterday and I asked the manager, I said, you guys,
postponed till March.
till March?
Yeah, I heard, the end of the year.
Cause I know that he told me they were working on it and Ace Hardware is involved, because I guess Aubuchon's is an
Yeah.
affiliate of Ace
So
Hardware or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I thought we didn't approve I'm not a fan of McDonald's, I think we're turning into Franklin, to be honest with
I
you.
don't think we have a choice on approving
But that's what I
it.
thought, but you just said it was approved, so.
Yeah.
I didn't see it was, it's probably gonna
No.
go in more.
So-
McDonald's is
I don't
approved.
think we really have a choice.
They came,
Approved by who?
the
And
McDonald's
Overtime
came
definitely
to,
needed.
Like, I don't think that should have been approved, but,
Well-
sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I get,
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, one at a time for the recording,
so,
please.
as was previously discussed, right, is that it is in an area that is supportive of a restaurant, any type of business that wants to go in there. In our CIP plan, it talks about the needs for restaurants in Allenstown.
Yep.
It checked all the boxes, period. The thing that was approved for them was they went in front of planning to get things, and then the zoning board approved, what's called a reader board, but it's essentially their, drive-through. Because you can only have one reader board on the property, right? And that's what was,
They've
that's
got
what
a
was,
double- a
yeah,
double
a
drive-through.
double drive-through. So it's gonna be similar to either Epsom or Hooksett. I mean, they're all kind of somewhat the same now anyway. That's just got pushed back. Abishan has signed a lease extension through the end of March to stay in that property. And I don't know what the holdup is with the franchisee that wants to put the McDonald's in. I don't know if they're having second thoughts. I don't know if they're looking because there was talk of was it gonna support, the sewer gonna support it, or did they have to put in a leach field?
I think that got squared away.
That got
So,
squared away.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't
we're
know what
not-
the delay is on that, at all, but we can't, if it fits into the zone and it fits into the town's plan, we can't tell somebody, no, they can't go ahead and do it, right? The town has ordinances, right, that are pretty strict. I don't think I think the way things are set here in the town with schools and with nursery care and childcare and different things, we can automatically eliminate certain things from coming into town.
Right, so I sat on the planning board, Deb, to answer your question a little more specifically. I was on the planning board for like 7 years, and when we meet, we have our Central New Hampshire Planning Commissioner in the meeting, most of our meetings. And he said, cause we had some other businesses that were like, we really don't want to do this, or we really don't want this to come into town, and he said pretty much exactly what Keith just said. If a company wants to come in and they meet the zoning requirements, he says, you can't say no for the sake of saying no, just because you don't want it. I mean, there's gotta be a reason, there's gotta be something that they don't meet. Cause otherwise, you can say no, they're just gonna take us to court, we spend money, they spend money, we lose, they go in anyway.
Could they go where Rite Aid is? There's a drive-through there, I mean, it's not a double lane.
That would have to, they'd have to submit a whole other plan and go back to square one.
Cause
It's-
the town really needs that option.
It's not our choice, right? We don't own it, the town does not
Right.
own that property.
Right.
There is a person who owns that property, or a developer, or an LLC, whatever they're called, and they get to choose what goes in that property as long as it fits into our town plan.
Is there a talk of Abishan going where Rite Aid is?
I
Yeah.
don't think that Obashan wants to stay where they are, cause it's gonna cost them too much to fix the building, so I think Obashan wants to leave.
Oh.
If Obashan can go to Rite Aid, that would be an awesome location, we get to keep the business, that's what I'm thinking, of, is being able to keep it in town is what we wanna do, cause we don't wanna lose a business that is so good to town. And means a lot, and that would be an awesome location, I just don't know if they're, but maybe there's some incentives that can go there to keeping it into town, but I don't think they, I think.
But you gotta remember, from a
Yeah.
business standpoint, they have to look at, is it profitable for them? Right? Does it make
Right,
sense for
that's
them?
on there,
It's-
that's on
it's
them.
not what we want,
Right.
but that's also from, like, if I
Right.
owned a business and I wasn't making money, why would I wanna stay there, right? Now, they told me that they are looking at Rite Aid.
Yeah, they want to.
They are.
Right?
Yeah.
And at first they thought that they didn't want to, but they've heard enough where, but again, it's gotta be feasible for them.
Mm.
From a business standpoint, it's gotta be feasible for them. It's
Didn't
gotta
they
be cost
used to be
effective.
there? They did used
Yeah,
to
they
be
Yeah.
did
there.
the old shopping
Yeah.
center,
Yeah.
that portion they tore down.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Now, like with Rite Aid, now, I don't know if we can do this or not, but can anybody reach out to, like, say, Walgreens or CVS and, hey, we got, a
Yeah.
property here?
Yeah, they could, but when you drive in a 4 mile radius and see how many different CVS, Walgreens that way, CVS, Walgreens that way, like,
They're all within a
and they
section
all,
of a
they all
mile.
know that anyway, right?
Right.
You know, they all know that anyway.
Yeah.
CVS, or Walgreens and CVS were advertising, bring your Rite Aid prescription over to us, you know, we'll give you an incentive to bring it here, so. Yeah, they don't have any reason to come in here. I mean, let's think about it. We talk about McDonald's being so many of them around in the area. How many pharmacies do we need in the area? Right? I
We don't
mean,
have
one.
any. Yeah, we need one.
yeah, but
We
I
need one
mean,
bank
Yeah.
too.
yeah.
Bank would be
But
nice.
anyway, I think we're getting way off topic
Yeah, we
here.
are.
Okay, any other questions with regards to the are your questions answered, Mark, you feel?
Sure.
No, if you have more to say, that's why we're
Well,
here.
I mentioned we chase business away, and the underlying current was, why are we having this, and why, we need to somehow figure out ways to promote some of these, and I think tax breaks are the way to do it. Would Brady Sullivan done that project over there if we didn't give him that 5 or 7 year
Probably
break?
not.
Probably
No.
not, probably not.
No.
A lot of people were up in arms, they're getting free, blah, blah," and I says, they would have never even done that. That building would be empty and full of rats
Yeah,
if we didn't do that.
yeah.
Spend money to
And
make
that,
so
and
different.
exactly,
So
and
different.
there's so many different, like I said, we gotta get creative and figure out ways to increase our revenue and maybe cut our spending or
And
temporarily.
Hillsborough probably doesn't need an incentive to
No, they probably
build the
don't.
addition.
They have a demand.
'Cause
and
it's there.
a
Yeah,
need
but
and-
so what happens is they have to apply for it. There is a 50% property tax relief for the first 10 years, and that goes up.
It's prorated.
It goes down, I guess,
Or whatever,
every
yeah.
2 years, right? So they
Right.
get a 50% break their first year. So what people, and I didn't realize this either, from the day they signed that paper and got approval for the 50% tax break, that's when that started.
Right.
So for the first 2 years, they got a tax break basically on land.
Or on, like a construction loan.
You know, I'm
So
basically.
they're building the building
Right.
and they're getting a low
And
tax.
so I think we're in the last 2 to 3 years of that. So they're paying somewhere around 60 or 80% of their tax bill right now.
And their assessment, if I'm not mistaken, is what, 16 million?
16 or 18 million, yeah. And then,
It's a good chunk.
It is a
and
good
then
chunk.
the Brady Sullivan Towers, or Brady Sullivan property was there for 7 years, their taxes stayed the same.
Oh, really?
So
Was
if
it
it was,
prorated?
and again, don't 100% quote me on that, although I'm being recorded, so I am being quoted on that. But if memory serves me right, again, stupid numbers here, let's just say they were paying $50,000 on that property. That stayed at that will stay at that for, I believe it was 7 years, and then it gets fully assessed. Right, and that's,
we're looking at a balloon.
and I forgot what that, do you remember, Diane, what that
It
that
was
is called?
over 100 million.
No, but what the rules or regulations or not the law, but,
What,
the tax, the
tax
tax break. Well, it was called something specific
Yeah.
because it's in an old historic mill building
Yeah.
and they were revitalizing it, right? So, you know, that'll come on pretty hard and heavy, pretty soon. That's really the biggest one we'll see the biggest impact on, because we've seen Hillsborough Village kinda keep going up and up and up, you know, as far as things go. I don't know about Hudson Quarry. I don't know if they applied for that 10-year break, so I don't know if they're fully assessed or they're going in increments, as far as that goes, you know.
Were they there before we did that though?
No.
No, they're in the storage unit too.
Because once Brady Sullivan and Hillsbrook are at 100% on the tax rolls, I mean, when they reach that, when we did the new school, I mean, that's gonna be your debt service to the new school, are those two properties, from taxes coming in,
So,
so.
Can I make a suggestion to you? Try to attend a couple economic development meetings, maybe join it. And I'm serious, because
No,
because these are the same things that they try to do. This is the same attitude that's there. That's what, and you need people to have that mindset to be aggressive and say, let's go, let's try to, you know, infuse some passion in there and do it. I mean, that's just a suggestion. And then you'll see that these ideas that you have is in line with what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
I think right now, we spent the money and their taxes are stressful, but to the point of the mill coming in and whatnot, is that spending money to make money, we're gonna see the money in the next couple of years that we spent to make.
Yeah, just those two properties alone will be your debt service on the new school.
We'd like to bring some more in.
Well, that doesn't help
absolutely.
the fire and police though, right? Basically what you're saying.
Well, it's gonna help on the
the
school
budget.
side of things, on the budget.
it's gonna help all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? We've already seen it, and believe it or not, we've actually seen an increase in revenue from Brady Sullivan because of all the car registrations.
Yeah, there's ancillary,
Right. Yeah.
maybe, you know, restaurants
Right.
and whatever.
Right.
Do we get room and board or anything? We probably don't get
We
any
do,
of those.
we
Oh,
do.
we do?
get,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
We get
the
a
revenue page.
We do get that. Yeah, every town gets a division of that. And see, what people don't know is the state shafted towns on that too, because when it was first implemented, it was supposed to be 40 or 60%. I forgot what it was, but it was supposed to be there. They were only giving us 20 or 30%. Right? And it finally started increasing over the last few years. I don't even know if it's still fully funded, I'll call it. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. But, you know,
Meals and room tax, revenues is $472,000.
That's pretty good. It's a good chunk.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is helpful.
Okay.
Good discussions, good
Good.
discussions.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
And you probably know. Since I've been on budget committee for a long time, I always hear, oh, you know, Allenstown is small because Bear Brook is there. Bear Brook is this big black hole that sucks the life out of Allenstown. And maybe we should be looking at ways to turn that to an advantage instead, because there's all kinds of recreational activities that go on all around Bear Brook.
Excellent point, let me interrupt you there, because that's exactly what we were doing in the Economic Development Committee too, was using that as a focal point. If you look at the signs that you have up here, and I know it's just a sign, but that was when we started to talk about how to bring businesses in, how to revitalize some areas that we were doing. One of that big thing was to try to use that as a selling point too. And as you see the signs say home of Bear Brook Park, because before it was only known as, unfortunately, somebody dumped some bodies in there, and that's where most people knew about it.
The
So,
four barrels,
so we're
or
trying to get the
whatever.
word out.
The
trying
ones
to
we
work-
found.
Trying to actually work with them to try to do things. We had some passes at the library and doing some other things, trying to see what type of breaks we could get for people, for citizens of Allenstown to actually maybe some type of break to use the park and things. And again, the Economic Development Committee is what we were trying to do also, was try to use that and change that and use that as a benefit, you know, with the snowmobiling clubs and all kinds of different types of things. But that's a healthy point. That's talks that probably need to be brought up again, you know what I mean? And
Not just using Bear Brook, I mean, sure, we can, you know, piggyback on
and
Bear.
use it as a positive.
But
right,
yeah, but
yeah.
we can use it as an adjunct, like we're next door to it, but we also have our own recreational activities. We have plenty of, like, there's waterways that
And
can
that,
be.
and that, again, that's an
you know,
economic
yeah.
development thing.
Right,
Perfect.
exactly.
I mean, I encourage everybody to attend a meeting, go in there and see what's going on. Because these are ideas that, like you say, think outside of the box. So that's one of the ways you can definitely is look what can we do, you know? And you're talking about cutting things, well, that's a little bit temporary. It is, but also adding little things at a time helps too, right? And
Sure,
these are
that
some things
balance.
that you can think
Yeah.
of, exactly.
Correct, a good balance.
And it actually makes me motivated that I hear this, because I'm like, dang it, that's what we've been trying to get through and get.
Is there
the word
any
out.
way to petition the state to loosen up some of that land? Cause a lot of it's kinda like
think they're
landlocked
ever gonna-
and now.
I mean, we went through that.
I mean, Dodge Road, one
Wow.
whole side is Bear Brook, right? If they just said, alright, let's cut, and you could maybe develop that, cause
My fear, I'll be honest with you, my
Excellent
fear of
point,
doing
Bill.
something like that
Excellent point.
would be, we'll do that, but you have to bring in low income housing. You know, workforce housing. And I don't mean disrespect to that, but that's not gonna be a tax revenue. We were told, with Brady Sullivan, we were told 1.5 school kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're up
And
to
there's
what,
a
7?
bus of
Yeah.
school kids that come from
I
that.
think there's like 8.
And there were no impact fees.
Yeah, and so, you know, again, I
but
don't
we
mean,
built the school for that reason, right?
well, but we
No.
built the school for the kids, you're absolutely right. But we're not seeing the revenue from that.
Sure.
To offset the student population, if that makes sense, right? So,
Should have been cooked into the cake though, or figured, you know, and,
Impact fees.
but I mean, we build a nice school to encourage people to move
Yeah.
here,
right.
and then kids are gonna go to the school.
Yeah. But again, we're gonna see that in a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
But when Brady Sullivan came and said, hey, you guys are only gonna see 1.5 kids.
Yeah, that was baloney,
Right?
you know?
This is what we've done at every other property that we've built, and it's only been this, right? So, but again, we're spinning, and yeah, I mean, Bear Brook's a great topic.
That is a good.
Yeah.
You know, and the downside to Bear Brook State Park is, this department doesn't even come close when they have to go out there and do a rescue of getting reimbursed for what it costs them to go out there. Right? I mean, it's a skosh. The police department, when they have to go out there to the campground, you know, because somebody's drunk, doesn't get anything, you know, the state doesn't give us any money to go out there and do anything,
And to
so.
be fair, they're running on shoestring budgets
Yeah.
there
So
too
they cut
themselves.
that,
I mean,
too.
when we were
Yeah.
trying to work with them, I was amazed about how they're even running a lot of things, yeah, exactly. They were doing some projects to kind of revitalize some beaches and some different areas. That was about, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
I think, so.
Yeah, they actually did the old 4-H campground, turned it into a family campground now, out there, so, you know, and I guess it's been pretty booked up.
These are all great things, and I do definitely encourage everybody to try to attend one. I'm not saying you have to be a full member, but attend 1 or 2 meetings of the budget committee. Is Mike still in charge of it? Mike Frassinelli, get in touch with him, talk to him, I'm guarantee you're gonna find a kindred spirit.
He's a great guy.
And you're gonna figure out, and you
Uh,
might have the catalyst to figure some
yeah.
stuff out, man, you never know. Alright, sorry, I'll be quiet.
No, not you, him.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
He's telling me to move on. I said, you're the one
Alright.
talking.
No, but thank you, thanks for,
I won't
this is
talk
good
anymore tonight,
conversation.
Colleen.
This is good.
Me neither, I'm done.
It's all
Okay,
good. No,
so-
it's good stuff, good conversation.
So while we're still on the town though, I do want to take the time to go over the AES, the ad hoc committee on converting AES into the new town hall. I've got the PowerPoint. I want to explain why we got to where we got as far as, moving town hall over to that property. So the ad hoc committee consisted of, I was on there for the budget committee. We had Ron Adinolfo for trustee of trust funds. Brian Arsenault was the building inspector code enforcement. We had Loring Childs, a representative from the fire department. Beth Towers, well, it started with Mike Stark. For the police department, Chad was on for highway. Peter DeSantis, thank you. Peter DeSantis represented the public at large, so he would kind of field questions coming in from the committee meetings. Armin Verville who was the Allenstown Historical Society, and we had Jess Bickford, who was part of the SAU. The additional personnel, we had Diane, who was there for the Board of Selectmen. John Harrington attended as town administrator, and Lisa was on the agenda not on the agenda, on the listing, because she was the former building and maintenance person at that building. So that was the committee. So we were tasked to see, okay, is it feasible to move town hall to that building or sell that building? So that's kind of what I'm gonna go over, so if you have them, you can just follow along, or, so the first slide that we did in the presentation was the sale of the existing AES building. And the items to consider were, the costs associated with that. We would have had to survey the property at an estimated cost of approximately $15,000, and that would have been to release the athletic fields and do the lot line adjustments, because at AES, the athletic fields that sit below, that land was gifted by Jerry Lavoie with the intent that it would always be used for Allenstown's, children. So we would have had to maintain that. We couldn't sell that off. So we would have had to just put a line in back of the building, keep that. So by doing that, the construction, because there would have been no access to that backfield for usage, how would people get there? Because they'd actually be trespassing through the building portion to get to the backfield. The construction to do that, and this is from, Chad had a lot.
Isn't there a fire road though?
Yeah, that's
There-
Ferry Street.
Yeah, there is a fire road, so we would have had to access it through, across the street from the fire station, right here, down Ferry Street, to go to that back land. The cost to do that would have been approximately, was it $380,000, or, Diane, I think it
Yeah,
was like
something like that.
$380,000
Okay.
to be able to widen that road. And then once you get down there was no parking. So it just didn't make sense to spend that kind of money to do that. And then, of course, it would have been the New Hampshire transfer tax, and that would have been about $25,000, assuming we would have gotten $3.2 million, which there was no way you were getting for that property, because it's always 7.5% of the selling price. Your closing cost. So it just really didn't make sense. The other thing was, and then if we were to sell it to a developer for like $1 million, people thought, well, $1 million, that's going to offset your taxes, but it's going to offset your taxes by $1.87 per thousand, but it was going to be a one-time tax relief. So that's when you start getting these spikes in your tax rates. And the following year, of course, the taxes would have gone up. The risk of selling the AES building, because once we sell it, we can't control what happens to it, right? The conversion to a residential housing project would create an impact to the school, approximately $28,000 per child based on current tuitions.
$28,000 per child.
Yeah.
Really?
We would have lost the pre-K program, would result in the financial impact because 51% of the kids that go to the pre-K program are Allenstown students. So that was a significant
That's
chunk.
amazing.
Of the budget for the preschool, now this is preschool budget, this is coming from the SAU, the total budget is $595,896. That's an annual budget for the SAU to run the pre-K program at that building. Of that 51%, 303,569 and 64 cents came from Allenstown. So right now the SAU is paying the town of Allenstown $30,000 per year to rent the kindergarten wing to that. So it is already from the get-go generating revenue. So 27 Allenstown students, at 11,243 is that 303,569. Moving the pre-K would result in added transportation because keep in mind, you have to, state of New Hampshire, and I think even federal, you must educate a child from the age of 3 to 21 or 22 to their 22nd birthday. So had they moved to another location, now you have to bus them. That's another cost. So these were all factors that played into the decision to move over there. And then we would have had no voting locations because we can no longer use the parish hall. And as you know, we have no meeting space because I'm forever scrounging around to see where we can meet as a budget committee. And we would have had no emergency management location because that building serves as, your emergency in storms or whatever. That's the emergency shelter. So the reasons that we, kind of went with to convert AES into town hall was number one, it was a meeting location, voting location, meeting space for various boards and the general public. It could have accommodated a lot of people. If any of you have ever gone to a town board of selectmen meeting, it's really cramped for space in there. There's no, there's just no space. Location for community activities, indoors and outdoors. Renting space, the gym part for Suncook Athletics, for their basketball programs, the rec department, because it's got that field, the playground back there, so it made perfect sense to do that. We have approximately $450,000 that has been approved since 2020. It's a capital reserve account that the taxpayers have been funding since 2020 in support of the retrofit to that building. It eliminated the risk of residential housing that would have impacted various department budgets because again, once you sell it, anyone can go in there and do whatever they want. And we used the town of Pembroke when they sold their High Street school, the village school. They thought they'd get $1 million and all this money. They got $150,000, and it's going to be residential apartments. So it just didn't make sense, And by the way, we bought the school for $1.
Right.
So the location is central to the aging population and provides ADA accessibility, or will before we move in there, because some of it right now is not ADA accessible, and it will be, become our emergency shelter. Okay, the other thing was the cost benefits. Revenue from business development. Again, I mentioned that we're taking in $30,000 annually from the SAU for the pre-K program. They will stay on. We have a letter of intent from FireMed. FireMed is a company that is housed out of Rye, and they do all of the EMS, EMT, EMTA, advanced, whatever classes, and they're willing to rent space. And we could get approximately $10,000 annually for classroom space upstairs for those programs. So that's right now we're at $40,000 a year. The Allenstown Board of Selectmen has previously approved space consisting of 3 classrooms, but it's 2 classrooms,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. 2
the-
classrooms and a storage.
And a storage to the Allenstown Historical Society, and what Armin's going to put in all of his historical memorabilia and actually make a little museum. So, something else that we would have. Tenants right now, the SAU currently has an insurance policy in place of which the town of Allenstown is listed as an additional insured for up to $1 million per occurrence. And FireMed will do the same thing. So from an insurance liability standpoint, that is all covered. So the value of the existing town hall, because that building apparently will be sold, once we get closer to moving in. The current assessment on that is $602,000 for that building. Keeping in mind that Allenstown has an equalization ratio because we're not at 100% on property values. The equalization ratio for the town is 78.9%. So that brings it more in line with $763,000 and some change to sell that building. That building what's that?
We'll never get 700,000 for that place, but that maybe, who knows?
For the School Street property? It's
It's a big piece of land.
It's a big piece of land. It's got plenty of parking. It could be a great office building. It could be actually 2 beautiful condos like they just built
I'd
on
probably
Pembroke Street.
bulldoze it and do something else, but
But at that
whatever.
point, who cares?
Yeah, who
But-
cares, right?
We needed a number, and so we used a tax assessment and made it according to the equalization ratio to get a somewhat of what the value would be.
Is that
Because-
waterfront property?
What?
That's not waterfront.
No. The thing with the existing town hall too, and one of the important factors for me anyway, is there's no privacy in that building. There is absolutely no privacy, and when I presented to the Board of Selectmen, I was in there registering my car at one window, and at the very next window, there was someone applying for welfare. Very awkward situation. You don't want to be in that situation, and I felt my heart broke for those people, and it's like, there's just no privacy. So for financials, the total budget for the general government buildings, according to the budgets that we have for existing town hall, is $68,260. That's what we spend for utilities and so forth. So everything would just kind of, and plus we're gonna get the revenues to offset that. So we are saving tax money. And that was it in a nutshell. No, actually, hold on. We had the department heads prepare what they thought were issues with the existing town hall, because they were part of this process. So the existing town hall, items to consider: the personal safety, fire safety, building codes, ADA accessibility, that's not ADA accessible. Space constraints, going back to there's no meeting rooms and there's no privacy rooms. Let's see, no voting capabilities. And then if we did, because someone had asked, well, could we just bring the $450,000, which is a capital reserve account, back to the townspeople to see if we could reassign that money to do an expansion to this, to the existing one, and that would have skyrocketed big time in terms of cost, because the minute we altered that building, now everything triggered. All the ADA, life safety, all that we would have had to do. And it just didn't make sense. Plus, there would have been a cost associated with temporary space while we did the renovations to house town hall. So now we have the modulars, So, and that gets really expensive. So the fire report for existing town hall, the fire alarm and electrical systems all needed to be replaced and upgraded due to age and compliance of systems and lights. The second floor egress to that building doesn't meet life safety codes. If you ever went to the back of the building and picture yourself in a fire trying to get down that rickety ladder that from upstairs down, it just wasn't good. Exit signage and emergency exits needed upgrading, and there was a ton of safety items, mechanical equipment. There was space unfinished. There was no separation between floors. None of the ceilings actually went from floor to ceiling. None of the walls, went from floor to ceiling. So it just, once a fire broke out in there, it was just going to be wildfire. The police report, they had a lot of, safety. The town clerk windows are not secured. You could easily get through that. You can climb over the walls and get into the next office. It went on and on. The security systems, the outside lighting, all of that would have needed to be replaced. From a code enforcement and highway department standpoint, the only thing that we would buy, and that would come out of the capital reserve account, because the highway department will be doing all of the lawn maintenance to that building, and they're gonna be in need of a zero-turn lawnmower, particularly for the backfields, which is, I don't know, under $5,000.
Which I believe was given to them.
Was it already?
Yeah, I think they had one here that they ended up giving back to the highway department.
Okay.
I believe I heard that.
Yeah. Code enforcement, the heating, the cooling systems, the perimeter walls on the interior of the brick building to maintain temperatures. Both bathrooms are not ADA, so there was a whole bunch of things. All that were gonna be big ticket items. Building a new town hall, and we used, to build new, the AES building is 33,641 square feet, according to the tax maps and the tax assessment cards. The current commercial building cost, based on that square footage, if we were to build new, obviously if we were to build new, we wouldn't build it quite that big, but apples to apples would have been upwards of $9 million. And that was with premium materials and standard quality materials. If we were to build new, would have been just over $6 million. So we bought this property for $1. Let's utilize it. Let's expand the recreation for the kids. Let's make it generate some revenue,
Right.
you know? And then, of course, if we were to, there'd be another, besides building new, that excludes the cost of purchasing land, doing site prep, and putting in your utilities, which, your water, your septic, all of that good stuff. So we recommended after, and it was a unanimous vote, everyone on the committee thought after going over all the numbers, and we had all of the supporting data in front of us, that it made perfect sense to move the town hall into AES building. So that's it in a nutshell. I know there's, you're probably gonna start seeing work over there. I just wanted to bring it to your attention, and, you have the data on how the information was made. But I thought it was important to share that with you so that you can respond if someone asks you anything.
Now, have we had any contractors come in to spec out how
So
they want
right
to do
now, what has been done, and the only expenditures, and Diane, you'll need to correct me if I'm wrong, the only expenditures that we've incurred so far, and it was under 20,000, it was new, to secure the exterior doors.
it? Okay.
So there'll be keys, not everyone will have a key, but you'll have,
Card
those
Access
cards.
control.
Fobs.
Right. And it won't be, once you get in, you can't access every department with that card. It's gonna be
Right, because of the school,
specific
right.
because of the school. So one of the things that we're doing, so that's all been approved, and I think that's in
Yep.
place. And they
Yes.
had to buy a computer to link all the exterior
Right.
doors to that computer. And
The
that's
wiring
in,
is there, we had to buy the computer because the school took it.
right,
And the last we heard from John on Monday was the company was waiting for a couple of parts. And once they get those parts, they
Right.
come in. And then the outside of the building will be secured.
yeah.
And then we get into putting in those fire doors. And then the biggest hurdle right now is the ADA
So.
compliant bathrooms.
Right, we have to do ADA compliant, we
Right.
gotta bring it ADA compliant. So one of the things was at one of our meetings, there was discussion as hiring an architectural firm to do that. We had a feasibility report, which the school had paid for, which was part of building the new school, because to renovate that, to meet ADA and to
Right.
meet state requirements would have been $27 million. No foundation aid, no state aid money.
Right.
So, this was 33 million, 20 million came in from the state, free money, so we had to float a bond for 13 million. So we had that feasibility study, and it was in depth, and it was a very expensive report. So once the school moved and, we were contemplating moving town hall into AES building, the town paid for another feasibility report to the same company, because they had done all the background information on how would this work, what would be needed, or their thoughts to convert it into a town hall. And ADA was the big thing.
Right.
So it was ADA and to block off the kindergarten wing, the pre-K wing. So going back to the architect, none of us could see spending, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the third architectural study.
Right.
So I went back to Doug Proctor, who was the lead architect for the new school, and I brought him all the information and asked if he would just take a look at it, tell us what you think. And it was outlined in the report anyway. So the main, as you go into like the gym is here where you go vote, if you walk into that door, there's a bathroom there. That needs to be ADA accessible. And the other thing was the bathrooms for on both floors, boys and girls bathrooms need to be ADA. And so we're not gonna spin the wheel. So we're just going to, I think the plan, well, we're gonna discuss it at a meeting, obviously, would be to put, instead of 2 stalls in that bottom little bathroom, make it a 1 stall, unisex, open, you know, widen the door for wheelchair,
Right.
make that ADA. And then the other 2, the bathrooms, boys and girls on both floors, instead of having all these urinals and everything in the boys' room, and you know, they have 3 or 4 stalls,
Yeah.
and then the urinals, and which urinals in an elementary school I would not suggest. But anyway, you know, make it a handicapped stall, maybe 2 other stalls and 1 urinal,
Right.
you know, and then in the girls' room again, it's 6 or 7 stalls in there. Make 1 handicap and 2 or 3 stalls, and do it on both floors. And then the other thing that we needed to do for ADA accessibility was the stairwells. Going up by the gym, going upstairs by the gym, and if you're coming in the other end of the building, there's a staircase there. We needed to close in the banisters,
Okay.
which that's not big stuff, you know, and now build a, we needed to build a wall that we can lock down that kindergarten wing,
Right.
because that had to be separate
Right.
from the general public. Another thing that's been done already is that school pickup, drop off and pick
Yeah.
up for the pre-K.
That's all the way in the back now.
Yeah, instead of, you know, the teachers will park way out back so that there'll be plenty of parking for town hall or if you have to conduct business or employees. But the pickup will be on the further side of the building and they go all the way to the back wing. Go right around the building and then come out. Because that it's wide enough that they can have 2 cars and the playground will stay intact, and
Oh, that's good.
so
You're talking about looping around the backside of the building?
no, it's gonna loop. If you go, you could actually, I think the posts are out already.
Yeah, they are.
So you can go down, not where you would go to the gym, but the next entrance, and go down around the building, and then go, because the building is kind of, it goes like this, and then this is your wing for, so you're gonna go right down around, and then just go right back up,
Oh, okay.
you know, instead of going around the entire building. So I just wanted you to have the information in the background on the numbers and
What's it gonna cost
what's it gonna cost.
to renovate the building?
We're gonna do it in stages. I mean, we're gonna renovate it to the point where we can take occupancy like immediately. We have 450,000. We think we can do it all for that. The biggest nut will be, and I know John's meeting with an HVAC guy.
Yes, I think when he gets back
Yeah.
next week,
Just to give us ideas
just to spec it
on,
out.
yeah.
And that'll be a pretty high ticket item, but,
I think that'll be
We
the
have to do
biggest
it.
ticket item, yeah.
so the doors, you know, that needs to be done, the heating system,
Yeah.
and, like, for example, Armin, he's got people, his volunteers, they're just gonna take care of those
Yeah.
rooms. And, we do also have a resident that's been helping out quite a bit, and he's been looking at, like, when office equipment comes up on Facebook.
Peter DeSantis?
Peter DeSantis, yeah, he's watches for that, and he's been going to pick it up like all over the place.
To furnish the
And
building.
putting it
Free.
in the gym, so
Yeah.
that when, you know, we are done, you know, I'm sure we're not gonna have
Right.
tons of money left over, that's for sure, if any.
Yeah.
You know, then we'll have some decent office equipment, these companies are giving it away.
Now,
So-
as far as the office equipment, is there any like IT infrastructure that you're looking at, like wiring?
All the IT wiring is there,
Yep.
and,
But is it up to code?
well, yeah.
Cat-
Oh, yeah.
yes.
It's
Cat
a
6?
school.
Yeah,
So I talked to Larry Champagne from the school,
yeah,
and I told him, and he knew, and I, you know, got permission from Shannon. I went through the proper protocol. he knows where all the wiring is and all you know, there's jacks in every
Right.
room for
Yeah.
computer. So it's just a matter of, he can say, you know, this server goes to these rooms and he'll walk them through it. So it'll just be a matter of plugging in the computer, because all the wiring is there.
Okay, but I'm just curious,
Yeah,
if
and
it's
that,
not
that,
all,
that would have been a huge expense.
Right.
Yeah, but it's all there.
because I do that type of work.
Yeah, it's all there, and I think the, it's fire and police, all the alarms are set already, or,
Yes,
I-
yeah, there was a issue with making sure that the alarm system like called, you know, so it wasn't connected to like calling the alarm company or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That's done, that had to be done before school
Yeah,
went in.
but all the equipment was there, it was just a matter of
Yep.
connecting it
Right.
all.
Yep.
So, in answer to your question, I mean, the plan is to have enough money to finish it in its entirety. And if we don't, we're gonna do what we can to make it usable, to get the office spaces, cause town hall offices will all be on the first floor. With the exception, John and finance will be upstairs.
Yeah.
And they're going to take, the plan is, and subject to change, obviously, but they had, it's like 2 big classrooms that made up the library on the second floor. And John wants to make that like
Like the main meeting room.
main meeting
Yeah.
room, so we'll have plenty of seating for everybody. You know, so, and doing the banister, so if you know of anyone who's handy and would like to help out.
I do IT work, I could help.
Yeah,
Will there be any extra rooms to rent or lease out to
so,
anybody?
right now, well, the pre-K is already done, Armin is taking 2 of the rooms. Fire Med is looking to take 2 of the rooms upstairs, so yeah, there will be, you know, depending on who's gonna get private offices.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of, you know, because a classroom is probably this size, you could easily put a petition to put your planning and zoning in one room.
Yeah.
Because you don't have meetings that have a lot of people, you know what I'm saying?
Explain to them when we walked through Deerfield, how they really didn't make major changes to their classrooms.
No, it was petitions, so we did, we took the time, we went, because Deerfield did the same thing, when they built their new school, and when they first opened up, they had a hair salon, they had a pizza place, they had, of course, town hall. They have their police department there, so we actually talked a lot about that.
That would
Does
be a
it,
good thing, I think.
to bring the police department? Well, yes and no. Maybe down the road, because
Creative thinking now, creative.
no, we're doing creative thinking, because that is a prime property that could bring back a bank.
Yeah.
Vicky, I'm looking at you, you
Yeah.
know?
Sell it.
I was actually gonna suggest that, but I was
Yeah.
letting it go for now,
No.
so.
The thing with bringing the police department right off the get-go, it's gonna be expensive to do that, because they would have to build a Sally Port.
Yep.
And that's, you know, and I don't know how the logistics on even where they'd go, but going back to Deerfield has their police department there. They have an exterior door that brings them into a classroom, which is their police department, if you will. I don't even know if they, because we didn't go in the
No, we
police
didn't
part.
go in there.
I don't know if they have a little cell or whatever. The problem with it, and what they're really fighting about now, well, not fighting, but it's just making no sense, is that if there are people conducting business in town hall and they have a prisoner, and the prisoner needs to go to the bathroom, they're walking someone in handcuffs down. You know, so you'd have to do a lot of retrofit to
Yeah.
really make it work.
Yeah.
You know, is it possible down the road? Absolutely. You know, there's plenty of space there, but the cost to not take it was going to be crazy. So,
Yeah, because some people did ask, you know, just move the police station over there and recover that
and we
property.
asked those
I mean, it sounds
questions.
good, but there's a lot of logistics. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the other things I think that were on that slide, because we talked with the police chief and said, hey, what would it take? And, you know, it's, you know, the cell, the bathrooms, they have to install these special, you can't flush the toilet from, you know,
Right.
the bathroom,
Right.
it's gotta be flushed, so people don't flush
And it takes
evidence
up-
down the drain.
It takes up a lot of parking too, because now you have to find a place to put all your
Right.
cruisers. You know, so it does take up a lot of the
And they
parking
gotta be able to
space.
get out quick. So if
Right.
people are parked, they're going to town hall, they park when they're not supposed to.
Or if it's a
they just
voting
can't get out.
day, and you know the whole
Or-
parking lot is filled with vote. I mean, the cruisers need to be able to access the roads.
And I think they'd said the windows had to be like,
Yeah, they had to do upgrades to,
bulletproof
yeah.
to those particular windows.
Yeah.
and-
But,
It
you know,
was
I
really
encourage you
A lot more
to
complicated
go.
than we thought.
Yeah. The thing is, when we went to Deerfield, I was really impressed because they did it over time. You know, they didn't jump in and do it all. But now they're at the point where they have a flower people that come in, a flower committee
Yeah, they
in
have,
town.
yeah, they have
All the
volunteers.
landscaping is done by these flower
Yeah.
volunteers. Last year they built pickleball is a big thing.
Yep.
They built new pickleball courts in the back. Of course, they did it over time. They raised money and,
Yeah.
you know, so it became there. And they have after-school programs and
A rec program that generates.
income,
people pay.
lots of income.
Yeah.
The before school, after school,
Yeah,
because they have all the classrooms. So it's all stuff that we can certainly look at down the road. You know, I mean, but that was all, they had to hire 2 full-time rec people
yes.
because it's so much going on there.
I thought the pre-K was staying
It is staying.
in the school,
It is.
which when you, I think it was at the last meeting that I had gone to, they had talked about moving the police department over there, but because of the pre-K staying, they determined that the safety for those kids, it would not be feasible for that
Right.
to happen.
Yeah.
I think
No,
it'd be
that was
safer
part
for
of
the
it.
kids. You got an armed school now, you know, instead of a soft target.
Yeah.
Could the
But-
police department go back into the town hall where it is now? That's
What's
where
that?
the police department used to be.
In the
No,
basement, though.
that's,
That was-
yeah,
I don't know
no.
what's still over there.
How
But-
about
Again,
the end
that's
of
a
this
good
building?
And
point.
again, it's
If-
prime
if they
spot
put
over
the
there.
police on the
Yeah.
end of this building
Prime
somehow,
commercial space.
add it on, cause the money, even if you break even, let's say it's $1 million, and you somehow sell that piece of property for $1 million, we're gonna start collecting tax revenues on a business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you made this into a safety complex,
Right.
you might have to buy that house over there
Yeah.
that's empty right now, but it might be worth looking down the road,
Yeah.
might be worthwhile.
That
Oh,
was,
for the fire department, putting it in here, you
Put,
mean?
make
At the end of this
safe.
building, you add a police department on the end of this building,
Quiet
Yeah.
tonight.
and you make it like most towns, a safety complex.
it,
Yeah.
Mark, it was originally designed that way, and then the 2 chiefs didn't get along.
They never do.
But
They
now,
tell you what
now
they
that
give
there's an
you.
ambulance service here, if you walk into those bays,
Yeah, this building is utilized.
yeah, yeah.
You'd have to add on to this building.
Yeah.
But it would eliminate a pretty good piece of property on the corner there that's worth a lot of money.
Well,
That's,
maybe you know, I'll be honest. I've never thought that the existing town hall could be a police department. I mean, with retrofit, obviously.
Yeah, but I
You
mean,
know,
it
but it's
used to
got
be
plenty-
once upon a time,
Yeah.
it was also shared with the town hall.
Right.
yeah.
Town hall has always been there, so
Right.
if the town hall's not there.
Have you ever seen the police department in the cellar down there?
No.
It's-
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
That's
mean, and
okay.
again, when you
That's
touch the
okay.
building, all the code's gotta be met.
Yeah.
So
Right.
No.
Yeah.
sometimes
It
you're better off to
wouldn't-
just build. it.
But
Get-
I
get rid
wanted
of
you to
that
have the
building, get rid of it.
information in case, you know, people are asking, why are you doing this? Because the cost to sell it,
I
or
thought that
just,
already went up to a vote and was
It
approved.
did,
It
in
was.
2022,
it was, but then it was,
but it took so long. Then
yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense to have, to use that building,
Yeah.
so.
So, state of the town, I think we've discussed everything about the state of the town unless you know of anything new coming.
State of town.
I don't think so. I think we talked about everything.
Okay.
I mean, the AES conversion is like the biggest item
Right.
now.
So the school expense and revenue reports, what you gave me is just September. But the good news, and I'll let you speak on behalf of the school board, I guess there is a surplus this year? Well, there's a surplus every
well,
year.
we're anticipating a surplus, and, I think it's gonna be somewhere in the vicinity of $200,000, right? But we don't have the finals, there's still some things coming in, there's still some encumbered stuff that is being taken care of. And, we had some revenues that came in, so, I mean,
We have kids.
let's
move
put
out.
it this way, in May, we were anticipating having like $13,000 left from the school budget, alright? You know, and so, you know, you go through the summer, you go through the things, and now it looks like we're gonna be giving back somewhere around $200,000, right? And that's kind of the downside with the school, with government funds coming in and not knowing when they're coming in and how that's happening. We're trying to get it done sooner, yada, 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 right?
And kids moving
obviously-
in and out.
And a little bit with kids moving in and out, right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. But that does play a factor, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Special ed plays a factor, you know,
Mhm.
there's all those things that end up, you know, paying lots of factors to things. One of the biggest factors that is gonna happen is, Prospect Mountain has recruited 11 kids from Pembroke Academy to go to their high school. Well, how does that affect us? They're not Allenstown kids, but it affects us because the less kids that go to Pembroke Academy, right?
Cost
That cost is still the
per
same.
kid.
The cost gets higher per kid.
Yep.
Right? And I don't know how true any of what I'm about to say is, but I heard it's because Prospect Mountain built a high school for about 800 kids, and now there's only about 400 kids in that high school.
Where is that?
Alton, on the way to Alton, 28.
That's pretty good height.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that goes back with the whole school choice and all these different things. Now, this isn't one of the things in the Supreme Court right now, or a big thing in the Supreme Court right now, because it's how does that affect? Because we have an area agreement with PA saying that our kids from the schools have to go there, Allenstown, Chichester, Epsom have to go to Pembroke Academy. So that's something that's going on and happening, but that, depending on what happens with that, that could really affect
All of the regional schools.
all of the regional schools, right? I mean, we're just at the beginning of the school year, so to talk about current revenues, and we just can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. We just started school. Things are looking good over there. A generator is going to be being installed fairly soon. That would, if need be, my understanding is, if need be, they could still have school with the generator. Now, not every outlet, not every light would work, right? Everybody's had a generator and in a business knows that it powers down, but it's still operational. But, if there was an accident and somebody took out a pole on leading into the school on River Road, thank you, I couldn't think of the name of it. Or something where they could still have school, right? Instead of needing to be like sending people home because we didn't have backup power. Let's see here. I guess that's really, there was a propane issue, because the pipe going into the school wasn't big enough. Now, again, it's not a school board per se issue. It's like, why did this happen? Like, who did not size that, right? All right, so that all had to get dug up and taken care of. As a school board member, I've already said, I'm never gonna vote to go ahead and expend those funds. That's on Rhymes, that's on our project manager, that's on the people who built the school. Period, plain and simple, right?
Right.
We do have a water issue there, but as anybody who knows it's on a well in Allenstown, there's arsenic issues, right? It's not a secret. Allenstown is the third, New Hampshire is the third highest in the world in arsenic in the water, right? And so it is an ongoing issue and problem. There are systems in place. We're putting in even a better system to make sure that the kids don't have any issues with that and getting that taken care of as well. And Second Wind believes that will go ahead and really ensure, we can never guarantee anything, right? But they're really confident that that'll ensure that all the water would be safe for the kids to go ahead and be around. I think that's pretty much, it as far as things go. I think we're fully staffed.
Yeah, I just want to say though, as far as, I know that the baseball field is done. If you haven't driven down there, please go down there and take a look at the baseball
Yeah.
field. There was some monies
I
that.
apologize, actually, Allenstown Aggregate paid for the whole baseball field.
No, no,
I'm not
Advanced
Advanced, I'm
Excavating.
sorry, Advanced Paving. They actually called up and said, we wanna put a baseball field in for you guys.
I love that.
So, the only thing that the
Yeah.
school had to pay for was the backstop.
And the fencing and
The fencing, the backstop, yeah.
And they put in dugouts.
They put in dugouts, they graded it, they put in the sand, they did the whole works to that. Over the summertime, there was a huge soccer turnout for kids who wanted to go ahead and learn more about soccer that, I think the, soccer coach slash phys ed teacher volunteered to go ahead and do, and got a huge turnout on that. It looks like there's gonna be a boys and girls basketball team this year.
And a boys and girls soccer
And a
team,
boys and girls soccer team.
and a boys baseball and a girls softball team this year.
It looks like, and
Yeah.
again, that's pretty far out, but it looks like.
But I mean, they've never had that before.
Yeah.
And what's really exciting right now is a lot of the schools, they haven't had,
Yes, they have.
what?
They've had baseball, they've had softball, they've had soccer,
Oh.
long time ago.
Long
She said
time
that in a
ago.
while, but she-
Not that long ago.
Oh, it's been a while.
The field down here used to be used all the time.
Well, when my oldest daughter graduated, so she's 24 now, when she graduated, there was baseball,
Yeah.
softball, there was all, the
Yeah.
different
Right.
sports, so.
But it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
My youngest did play in a co-ed league, and I think for a
Yeah.
while they haven't had baseball. I think baseball stopped before softball stopped,
Yeah.
actually, but.
So, but it's just nice that,
Yeah.
you know, and the kids are signing up for it, which I think is amazing. But what's really, you know, interesting is that a lot of the schools, well, several of the schools that we usually play in, you know, like, I don't know if it's the Chichesters or the whatever it's now, but whoever that we play for in sports, they no longer want to play in their home field or courts. They want to play their games here, which that's
Well,
never,
we have-
ever been the
We
case.
have a real basketball court, right, outside of,
Three Rivers.
Three Rivers. Do they have a real basketball court?
Well, I don't know, but we didn't have a
But
real
there's no,
basketball court.
but there's no place for people to watch,
Right.
right? There is in, if you go up 28, what are the two schools?
Epsom and
No.
up 28.
Yeah,
Pittsfield?
Pittsfield and,
Barnstead.
Barnstead each have, actually Barnstead has a real, I think they both have real basketball, if I remember.
Barnstead
right.
has a pretty good team.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
used to refuse to play.
They wouldn't play.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The schools
They-
would not
They hated coming
let their
here.
kids come
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
play here.
I used to lose weight watching games.
Right, so anyway, so that's some really good stuff going on.
Yeah.
They had a really good turnout for open house that just took place, you know, and, like I said, you know,
They're starting the robotics, I was told this week, that starting their
Yeah.
robotics program or whatever,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
And we're getting ready to start the budget process. Again, what's kind of weird, the town's doing their budget process for 26. We're doing our budget process for 26, 27, right? For school year 26, 27. So we have to figure that budget out now for a year and a half down the road, right?
That's hard.
It's really hard,
Yeah.
right? So anybody who wants to come and, you know, sit on our meetings and do that.
But another important point too is that you'll recall that the school budget did not go default because they came in under the default budget number. And even with that, they're turning in
Well, yeah,
some money.
and I should say too is,
It's a good lesson.
What's that?
It's a good lesson.
Yeah.
well, the school's been, if you look back over the last 10 or 12 years, the school's had a history of turning back $2 to $3 to $4 to $500,000, you know, because the school board has been very, you know, cautious and tried to really go ahead and do things. Now, let's be honest about stuff. We haven't had all the sports teams. So if we have all the sports teams, busing for sports events is gonna go up. Refs for sports events is gonna go up. And the refs at the grade school levels get paid the same amount as the refs at the high school levels, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't get refs there if they didn't have, if they didn't charge the
It's the
same.
same ref.
Yeah, well, but the games are shorter,
Don't all these
Yeah.
teams fundraise?
Say it again.
Don't all these teams fundraise, the senior help support and?
A little bit, but I mean, again, let's take fundraising, like, are we already sick of fundraising?
I'm just
You
saying.
know what I mean?
I know me personally, I spent $1,500 in fundraising for my kids to play a sport.
Yeah, so
if I'm doing
That's a
it-
lot of
Yeah,
calendars.
but
Car washes.
athletics, extracurricular activities, whether it's athletics, whether it's band and choir, whether it's robotics, are really, really important to the education aspect, right? And there is fundraising that's going on, you know, they do different things at fundraising, but, we also had to pay for the upkeep, not the upkeep, the lighting, right? We had to maintain ARD and AES for almost the entire school year
Well,
last
that's what I
year.
was thinking, we're
right?
only doing one building now versus
Right,
two separate.
well, three, actually, last year we had three, because
Okay.
we still had to heat, ARD and AES, we still had to have temperature controls in there, and we still had to have electricity because of the alarms and the stuff that happened in there, so there was some expenses, we had to plow them, right? We had to pay to go ahead and plow those, so there was some really big additional expenses with those schools, that are now gone. Like, well, the town owns, AES, and the church took back ARD. So that's where those things are at. Other than that, I really can't, I'm trying to think of anything else off the top of my head, and I really can't think of anything, I can't think of anything else unless anybody's got any questions.
I have a question, Keith. So with the second wind, 'cause that's who I have, you have to kind of figure in the maintenance for those?
Right.
'Cause sometimes, like, mine went up to $800 for my,
Exactly, and that is
That's my
figured
house.
in, we've got all that, budgeted in, for lack of a better term. We're also looking at pumping the septic tanks, having that process, because that's not a yearly thing, but you have to kind of plan for that and, go back to put that in capital reserve, right?
Yeah, that
Um,
would be sensible to do. in
Yeah,
January.
so, those things are like, some of that stuff is a one-shot, aspect. Every so often that has to go ahead and be done, but we give it, I'm gonna guess, probably another year. And the real good growing pains will be gone. Now, remember, last year's school budget, everything for Allenstown Community School, for heat, for lights, for water, for all that stuff, was just a guesstimate, because there was no history. This year, still kind of a guesstimate, because there's a little history, but you all know, you need 3, 4, 5 years to have a good history of what things are gonna go ahead and be. We're starting the budget process and looking at that to see how we can go ahead and keep it, at a good level, so. We're gonna invite the Congress people in, it's, my brain just went dead.
Okay.
Your legislators.
Our legislative team, yeah, we're gonna invite them to a meeting to ask them how they're gonna help, with school funding.
Will that be open to the public?
Yeah, everything's
When is
open
that gonna be?
in 2 weeks, a week, I think, week and a half. But again, I don't know if that's when we're having, I have to look back at the schedule. I'll get it to Elaine to go ahead and get our budget schedule put out.
Cause I think we should all go to that, cause that's who we gotta be, the tree we need to be barking up.
Right, but again, who knows if they're gonna show up or not, right? And Matt Patero and,
McGuire's.
McGuire, right? And then, I guess that's who it is, yeah. So,
Good luck.
yeah,
One quick question.
sure.
Scholastically, I just read somewhere, kids are graduating high school that are functionally illiterate. They're blaming it on COVID, they're blaming it on this and that. Is there some kind of testing that goes on between each grade, or how does a kid go
There-
from?
There is testing. So unlike when we went to school, Mark, where we were told, you're not smart, you're staying back,
Yeah,
they're saying,
no child left behind.
no child left behind. We just promote them through, and now, there's a lot of issues with that, right? But there is testing that's going on and happening. There is things to get the kids caught up. If you look at the Allenstown test scores, they are improving. When we look at the matrix of at level 4, at grade 4, at grade 6, those different levels, they are improving and things are going ahead and improving. Why are kids graduating illiterate out of high school? It's a crying shame, and I really don't want to go on record right now as saying too much.
I don't mind spending good money in having
Yeah.
a great education, but are we getting our money's worth is the big question.
Well, I think I think we can always say no, that we're not getting our money's worth, right? But you look at last year, there were 2 Allenstown school, two Allenstown students that went through the Allenstown Elementary Schools that graduated in the top 10. 4 years before that.
Top 10 at Pembroke?
Pardon me?
Top 10 at Pembroke?
Top 10 at Pembroke Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm trying to do the math in my head, maybe 4 years before that, there was, the valedictorian was from Allenstown, and I think number 2 or number 3 was from Allenstown, right? So, you know, there's a lot of good things that are, you know, we always focus on, you know, that small number.
4 from the top 10, 3 from the top 10.
2, because the third one moved in from out of,
Oh.
yeah, they were from Allenstown, but they didn't go to Allenstown schools.
That's right.
So we focus a lot on what you just said, and I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on those, but we also don't always celebrate the really good things that are happening with the kids, and the kids who have turned their lives around, that struggled through 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, or 4th, 5th, 6th grade, or 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and then found that niche at Pembroke Academy, or at any high school for that matter, whether it's robotics, or whether it's as coach, or whether it's something else, that has turned around and become really, really successful. I agree with you, there shouldn't be any kid graduating that's illiterate, but go to the State Department of Education and ask them how they're gonna go ahead and fix that, and they will not give you an answer for that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
and-
sad.
and-
It's
and
very
I've just
sad.
been- And it's not just here,
No, it's statewide or
it's
countrywide.
not just,
Countrywide.
but it's not
Yeah.
just statewide, it's a countrywide, it's a countrywide
Yeah.
aspect. And we can go on and on and on about things, but, you know, I
Well, I think a big helper though, I think moving forward will be the whole eligibility for kids. And you've seen kids as far as they need to meet a certain guideline to be able to play sports.
yeah, but you can get waivers for that stuff.
What do you mean you can get waivers?
What about like expelling kids that are really just causing way too much?
There is so much, and again, I wanna be really, really careful what I'm saying, right? I gotta be really, really careful what I'm saying.
Along those lines, you
Yeah,
know?
but there is, you know, again, when we went to school, we were more fearful of when we got home.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times the parents come in and be like, what are you talking about?
Not my kid."
kid wouldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's gotta be documentation, and I'm not saying documentation is wrong, but there's gotta be documentation, then you gotta go through this, and you gotta go through this, and you gotta go through this, and by the time that happens, the incident that happened in September, right? By the time you go through everything and the kid acts up again and again and again, and you can finally say, yeah, all right,
It's probably bad.
it's probably May, you know? The Department of Education, I'll say, and society has handcuffed educators from being able to properly educate and hold students accountable for a lot of things, and parents accountable, right?
Yeah.
And again,
And
I-
police too, they're
I gotta be,
handcuffed too,
you know,
you know?
and again, I appreciate Tim, you know, recording this stuff and getting stuff online for people who aren't here being able to see, but the downside of having that online now, and the recordings of what can go ahead and happen, it can all get misconstrued, and somebody can cut this up and go ahead and change my wording around,
Yeah.
right? And, you know,
Keith says it,
yeah,
control.
and so that's why I say I wanna be very, very careful, not to hide anything, but, you know.
But the bottom line is also this, is that we're stewards to everything here. You know, we're in the budget committee meeting, we're in the school board committee meeting. As a citizen, you can go over and take a tour of the school, talk to the teachers, find out what their curriculum is. I mean, just because we no longer have children in the school, doesn't mean that we can't be involved and go and talk to whoever's in charge in there. I mean, have you been to the new school yet? Yeah.
I was there when it was being built.
When it's being built. But it's always good, I mean, and you bring up a good point, because if you're spending money, which we're investing in things, right? And hopefully we're investing in our kids, be involved and find out, and see especially through the budget committee. I mean, I know the principal there is always gonna be open to having people come in, take a tour, talk to them, sit down, find out what the curriculum is, find out what the strain is on them, what the challenge is on them by the state, and it'll open your eyes up a lot to how much handcuffs they are on some things that they wanna do. But it's always good to know and find out, everybody, I encourage everybody to go down and find out. I mean, obviously, that's what part of our taxes is going for, correct? No different than if you wanna find out if the fire department's trained adequately, or the police department's trained adequately, it's all our money, correct?
There were more residents here tonight than they come to school board meetings. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, just right, come to the meetings, you know, come and find out what you can go ahead and do and see. We actually, I put a proposal, I'd said to the school board one time, I said, we should get parent volunteers to come and join some of our committees. You know, we're on the school board and we're part of committees. I was at a school board meeting Monday night. I was at a executive school board meeting, cause there's an executive board meeting of all the 5 districts that go to Pembroke Academy, right, for the SAU. So I had that meeting last night, right? Some people are on curriculum committees. Some people are on policy committees. Some people are on, oh man, my mind's going blank about the other committees, but we said, why not get the parents involved and see who wants to come sit on a committee to help write policy? To go ahead and help have a say in the way the schools run. Crickets. Nobody wants to go ahead and do it. Nobody wants to come in and spend a little bit more time and help out, right? But then, how come our kids aren't at the top level in testing scores? Well, we can only do so much.
I threw this out many years ago. I sent my kid to Catholic schools for a long time. And those parents are paying good money and they're very involved. If the town had, even if it was a small amount, a tuition for every student,
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
can't do it.
You can't do it.
I even $500 a
You
kid
can't
a
do
year.
it. It's a
It might get them more involved.
It's a requirement to
Yeah.
go ahead and educate the students. It was your choice to send them to Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Right? It was my parents' choice to send me to Catholic schools, you know? So I know exactly what you're talking about, but it just doesn't matter. I mean, let's go back to how many people aren't paying their taxes. How many
Yeah.
people can't do this? You know, people are talking about, and now, like, you know, pay extra to go to school. It just, you know, stuff we got that we went out and did are now teachers and the school districts are now going ahead and needing to go ahead and incorporate into their budgets for things, you know what I mean? That we went out and got and had for school when we were younger, you know? So, there's a lot more to it that I really don't wanna talk about right now, cause it's about budgets really, right?
Yeah.
Not about, you know,
But bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, it's like what you were saying about the incentive to be involved. Well, I encourage everybody's, the incentive is we're all paying the taxes, and a lot of people, there's usually some benchmark event that causes somebody to wanna get involved into town stuff. Whether it's a passion thing they wanna do, or taxes are too high, or they're gonna cut a budget away from the school, whatever it may be. It's that catalyst to get people to be involved, to sit at these tables. And then it's a matter of how much more do you wanna be, you know, you're getting to see how the sausage is made, but now we wanna know, and that's a great question, is my money being used correctly for the schools? Well, now I challenge everybody in here, find out. Go talk to the school, see where your money's going, talk to the principal, see what's going on there. Just like you'd like to talk to the fire chief and find out, is that money worth it, right? Is the ambulance worth it? It's all the same thing. And just my encouragement for everybody to do that. And it will help you out, and it'll help the town out, and it makes the school, the principal, everybody feel good that other than people who have kids in there are interested in the well-being of the school.
Yeah.
That's just my two cents, that's it.
you know.
No, I think it's a
Yeah.
good point.
And I don't know what the statistics are, but I bet if you went online and you looked at how many percentage of students had free and reduced lunch in New Hampshire, you know, in 2000, and then did it again in 2025, you can see that number
It's gone way up.
go way up, right?
Because it's free.
Because it's free, and so.
So you encourage it, it's
Yeah.
subsidized.
Right. And again, that's part of our school budget. Now we have to go ahead and plan for that.
So the
you know.
state doesn't reimburse some of that, or?
Some of it,
Yeah,
but
not enough.
not enough, you know? But again, keep in mind, right? Where does the state get their money from for education? From your property taxes.
I was gonna say from us.
So when
Yeah.
people are like, well, we get the money from the state, well, yeah, but it's from my taxes.
It's a big pro-
It's a just circle,
Yeah.
right? You know, and until they fix the funding of education and say that, an adequate education costs $17,000.
It's 20-something, right? That's what I want in here.
No, the state says that an adequate education, I think, is either $4,000 or $7,000.
Oh, 4 or 7.
Yeah, and I forgot what the number is, cause I think it was 4 something, and then I think it just went up to 7
Yeah.
something
I think so.
in the last lawsuit, right? But now there's even bigger aspects, because with school choice, the state's really gonna have to figure that out, because if a kid says, oh, I'm gonna go to, Pembroke from Allenstown, right? I think then Allenstown's like, okay, we have to pay you $7,400, right? Cause that's what the state says an adequate education
It might
costs.
save us money.
Well, no, because it really, I mean,
Doesn't really cost.
but it really
costs
costs
more than
$17,000 to $20,000 to educate a kid, right?
So they're under.
And so that's gonna go ahead and change the way things look, right? So there's gonna be some interesting things coming out, hopefully in the not too distant future, that'll go ahead and really fix things a little bit better. But when they started taking away the adequacy aid and the donor towns and things like that, that really plays a big part, to how that affects us. And we get hit hardest because we're a property poor town. The property poor towns that don't have the businesses in them get hit the hardest, right? I mean, we've had the old beauty salon that's been sitting vacant for how many years?
Yeah,
2
It could
years.
be a bank.
and they can't sell
It
it.
used to be a bank,
Exactly.
right? And then you have over in that little mall, next to up here on 28 across from
Stable unit, whatever it was.
yeah, right? That half those units I think are sitting blank.
Oh,
right?
Steeplegate's just about completely empty.
Well, yeah, but that's not in our town,
No.
right?
Yeah, you're
And-
talking about like the church and the dentist. office,
Yeah,
that
right
way,
now. Yeah, that's what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah, this plaza right down
Yeah,
the way.
you have next to Subway, right? That building, that half of it, 3/4 of it sitting empty, right? You have something behind Family Dollar that's sitting empty. There used to be a little store back there that's sitting empty, right? You have Rite Aid now.
Behind Family Dollar?
Yeah.
Next to it.
Well, next to it.
That's
Yes.
a-
Next to
that's a
Family.
Nope, if
restaurant.
you go right behind Family Dollar, there used to be a little store behind there.
And that's the reason why it's empty.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about it.
Right. And you got that little nail salon next to Family Dollar,
Yes.
and now you got Rite Aid that's empty,
Yep.
right? And then
We have a new
um,
vape shop, just putting it out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
but
that's really it.
yeah, you're right. We have a new vape shop. Yay. And
Oh,
then you
vape.
go
I thought you said bait.
you go down
That's
behind
more
Engine.
insane.
I think there's a couple businesses there that are empty. And then if you go up on River Road where Allenstown Aggregate is, they got like bays there that are empty.
Yeah,
Right, straight.
trying to rent out.
Yep, so, we talk about businesses coming into town, we have so much opportunity for businesses to come into town, but why aren't they coming into town? Right? Because we got some beautiful properties. for
Well, it's statewide though. You get a lot of vacant properties across the board because,
Yeah.
let's face it, you're not competing with Amazon, you're not
Yeah,
competing with
right,
Walmart.
right. So, again, we're property poor, right? We don't have the businesses in here. We have a state park that takes up about half of our town.
Oh, more than that.
Right? And so the state needs to fund education properly, and then you'll see your property taxes go down. Your property taxes really started going up, Mark, when the state stopped funding education and took away the donor towns and did that SWEPT, I forgot what it stands for, statewide,
Yeah, I don't know.
education, whatever, right? But that's when you saw your property taxes really start going up, was when the state took that away, probably 5 years ago.
That sounds about
I
right.
think.
Yes, literally the time I moved into the town.
Yeah, it's your fault.
It was
No.
like, my taxes were like $5,800, and now they're 11,000 and change.
Yeah,
I mean, the same exact, mine were 5,000, now they're 11 something.
mine were 2,000, right? And now they're 10,000 something, right? I mean, I get it, I understand that, right? But we are still the 48th least taxed state in the nation.
Oh yeah, New Hampshire.
Right,
Mostly because of no income tax
and no
Sales
sales
tax.
tax,
Right.
right?
but when you say the state funding, they're gonna say, all right, let's do a sales tax or an income tax, so we'll be taxed anyway.
Well, no, I don't want an income or sales tax, right? But what I'm saying is, if you look back to the Wolfboroughs, the Bedfords, the Amherst.
You
or-
can't compare Allenstown to those towns.
No, but you look at, we got money from those towns because of the equalization of the property taxes.
Yeah, we got margin bleed, right? Because they had.
Right?
additional-
That's what we got. They were property rich towns and we were what was called the donor town.
Well,
And-
that's also why we got $20 million on the new school project.
Yeah, but they took that all away, and that's why we saw our property taxes really start going up more, is because that money that we used to get from those other areas for school education went away, right? Look at, what Wolfboro pays for their look at some of those towns like Bedford and Wolfboro and Amherst and
Moultonboro.
and Moultonboro, and what they
Moultonboro.
pay for their school portion in their tax bill compared to what we pay in our portion, right?
Yeah,
You'll be amazed at that. So anyway,
Okay, so was that your state of the school?
I guess.
you can't expel kids and we
No, I will say though,
charge tuition, that's what we
you know,
got.
35 years ago maybe, I was on the school board, and when it was the Claremont lawsuit, and Allenstown was a plaintiff district to that Claremont lawsuit, and I remember spending a whole day in depositions, and we won that lawsuit, and that was 35 years ago. Where's the money?
You still haven't seen the money yet, right?
Yeah,
It's
Governor-
staying in the rich towns,
Yep.
which is should.
Governor Sununu took away 0.5% of sales tax, right? Lower from 9 to 8.5%. What does that mean to you and I? It means about $50 to $100 a year. Really, depending on how much you personally.
I was gonna say,
In our-
you can adjust it
In
according to
in
your
our
spending.
families, like depending on how much you go out to eat, get your Dunkin' Donuts, coffee, Starbucks, whatever like that, you add all
McDonald's.
that stuff up,
I
you're
had to
only
throw it
looking at
out.
about $50 to $75 a year, right? But the largest industry in the state of New Hampshire is travel and tourism.
Right.
It's a $6 billion plus industry. That 0.5% hit, if you think about all that revenue lost from all those people coming into our state, right? It didn't affect us. It affected us, less than $100 a family. But all that money, that 0.5%, could have gone towards school education.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your input.
Real quick, Keith was talking about the free school lunch.
Yes.
Reduced.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, I had to look it up because I was curious. In 22-23, there were 157,388 enrolled students. Of that, 37,372 were receiving a free or reduced lunch. And in 23-24, that number jumped to 40,943.
In New Hampshire, you're talking.
That's
about.
just New Hampshire.
Yeah.
About 30%, something like that.
Yep.
Okay, so are we done with school? Do we, any
No, I
more
think we're
comments?
good.
We're good?
It is the biggest chunk of our
It is.
tax.
It is, it is.
I have to say though, if you said you didn't go see the school, I toured it at Deliberative, and I was amazed at
Oh, I'm
how
sure it's-
beautiful
I'm
it
sure
is,
it's well
and the
done.
different, they have like soundproof rooms for music,
Yes,
they have a, they
Oh, Mac
have
room.
they have the kiln for art,
yeah.
the robotics blew me away, the school is amazing. And,
Yeah.
and as much as expensive as it was, when I toured it, I was like, this is worth every penny. I don't
Yeah.
mind paying my school tax.
The light, it doesn't look like a dang institution like
It
this.
is.
Like, we went to school.
When the kids first went in there last year though, right before May 4th, the opening, and they walked in and of course you're in this massive opened area, your gym's right there, and some of them were walking in and they're like, wow, does that mean we're rich now? And I'm like, don't go home and tell your parents, number one, and
We're not
some
rich, I can
kids
tell
were
you
saying, this is like a mall, it's just,
And the culinary room,
yeah.
the thing just blew me away.
And they use it, the teachers use that, and just simple life skills, how to fry an egg, how to boil water, you'd be surprised, a lot of kids don't know
I
that.
think you need that to graduate before you need gym.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to, because we'll wrap this up. So I do have, this was the edited, so that's why I didn't copy it. The budget season will start officially on, Saturday, November 21st. So, and you know, but I will get this schedule out to you so that you'll have it when the deliberative is, when the, you know, the town meetings are and so forth. I just didn't want to copy an edited form for you. So we've got that, but our next budget committee meeting will be on October 9th. It's the second Thursday of the month. Time, I mean, it'll be at 6, but place to be determined.
And if we're not here, if we're not able to make that date,
You could just ask to be excused,
I have to
yes.
ask.
Okay.
And that's a good
Be out of
point.
town that day.
Elaine and I are probably the longest tenured people on this committee, right? And we've noticed over the last few years, it's been very, very hard to get a quorum. If you cannot make the meeting, please, please, please let Elaine know. Because what's actually horrible is us showing up to a meeting, waiting to find out if we have a quorum, and we're sitting here for half an hour,
Yeah.
and we don't have a quorum,
What
and
do
we
you
can't
need,
get business done.
80% or something?
It's,
We need,
gotta be
eight people.
one more than,
7
So-
is half,
7 is half, so it's gotta
Oh,
be
it's
8
gotta be
people,
8
one more than
people.
half.
to
Right?
have a quorum.
So it's just really important if you can't make it to let Elaine know so that she can be like, hey, we need to reschedule.
You know, and when I send out the meeting invites, you know, if there's anything specific you want more information, or if you want a specific department head in, please let me know and I'll arrange that. You know, I mean, once you start looking at these things and you have a lot of questions, we'll call these people in,
Maybe the police department next time,
police department,
just because
yeah,
they always say we're understaffed and this and that.
yeah.
Who determines how many policemen we need?
And maybe John.
John Harrington?
Yeah.
So Elaine, I'll be late for that one.
Okay.
Like today, but I did change my hours on Thursday to go in at 7:20 and be out at 6 so that I'm not always a bazillion hours late for like.
Thank you.
So, but it won't start till the 16th, so it doesn't really help me out for the night.
Okay,
So I'm hoping I'll only be like 15 minutes late instead of an hour late. But that-
okay. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for the input. So we have no old business really to discuss. I don't think we have any new business to discuss, other than you'll be getting this. Yeah, this is just old stuff. So, that being said, I do want to thank everyone. This was a really engaging meeting, and I think that the dialogue was something we've never experienced in a long time.
Good.
And I welcome that. You know, that's what we need, is to, you know, let's go through these. I know it's a little longer than we normally meet, but, you know, we need to go through the numbers. We need to know what's going on. And I think, you know, kudos to the department heads in the school for, you know, staying within where they need to be. You know, managing that bottom line. So, that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Don't all jump in.
Jeez, man.
Okay, who had it? You made the motion.
Yeah.
Tim made the motion to adjourn. It is 8:44. Jeff, you're seconding?
I'll second.
Jeff
You
and Nika
got me,
second.
man.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Keith?
Go for it, because I opposed that one.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, we gotta see.
Oh, yeah, I sure will.
Yeah, sports way roofing. I learned about it from my nephew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he was having some behavior issues last day. He got to a point where he could join lacrosse.
Until you can bring
Saying,
more.
about that, he was able to manage those behaviors, but his grades were still slipping. And he's able to get some
What do you do, Tim? You post that online somewhere?
I'll post it up on are you on the Allenstown community page?
No, but I'll get on there. It's gov, allenstown.gov or something?
No, it's on Gov. It's the Facebook page.
Oh, the Facebook.
Allenstown community page.
Yeah, my mother-in-law is, she's on that.
I usually post things on there. Sometimes I'll post it on Allenstown, Pembroke one, but I don't usually post too much on that one. Just to get, I'm tired of people saying, "No, I never heard of this, I never heard of that, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
So I've been doing these, I've been doing the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I thought that was on the Talk Up one.
Well, no, that's all, well,
That's on the town one, right?
no, that's actually on YouTube. He does it on YouTube, and I just take it off of there, put it on,
that's right.
and move it over onto Facebook. That's generally what I do.
We still gotta get creative though. We gotta figure out ways to.
I know, and I'm 100% with you on that. But like you said, our hands are tied. I came in on all hot and heavy, like you were trying to say, and I realized we really don't have much power.
We don't have much now. Wish we could kinda.
But we do. Deliberative session. That's where the power is.
Yeah, right. That's in like February or something?
Yeah. So if